Jiang Ruorin was the emperor's chosen crown princess, yet the crown prince had already fallen head over heels for another woman. Determined to marry his beloved as his primary consort, he defied the imperial edict without hesitation, kneeling outside the palace gates. By the time the flogging finally ceased, Li Chengjin was covered in gaping wounds, his body soaked in blood. Even in such a horrific state, he refused to yield an inch. "Father Emperor, the woman my heart belongs to is Yao. She alone shall be my lawful wife in this life, now and forever." The eunuch beside him was beside himself with anxiety, racking his brains to persuade the prince. "Your Royal Highness, why must you subject yourself to such agony? Miss Jiang and you grew up together as childhood sweethearts. His Majesty has long betrothed her to be your crown princess. How could he possibly allow you to marry a woman of ordinary birth with an unknown background? Furthermore, Miss Jiang has a gentle and virtuous temperament. When she becomes your primary consort, Miss Lin can enter the Eastern Palace as your secondary consort. I am certain Miss Jiang would never mistreat her. There is no need for you to risk your very life over this." Li Chengjin furrowed his brows tightly, his voice firm and resolute with every word. "I have never loved Jiang Ruorin. The betrothal between us was forced upon me by Father Emperor. In this lifetime, I will only marry the woman I love as my wife. Besides, Jiang Ruorin is the daughter of a military general. She is simply uncouth and unrefined, utterly incompatible with me." Uncouth and unrefined. On the other side of the palace wall, Jiang Ruorin closed her eyes, her breath trembling slightly. 4 generations, the Jiang family had served the realm as valiant generals. Her father, mother, and 6 elder brothers had all perished in battle for the country. Leaving her as the sole surviving member of the Jiang clan, how could such a loyal and righteous family that had sacrificed everything for the nation be deemed uncouth and unrefined? It was precisely because of her family's unwavering loyalty that the emperor had chosen her to be the crown princess. Yet Li Chengjin simply did not care for her. He despised her for practicing martial arts day in and day out, for being obsessed with swords and spears instead of cultivating the grace and literacy expected of noble ladies. At first, he had only been cold and distant toward her, never explicitly rejecting their betrothal until he met Lin Qinyao, the woman who claimed to have traveled from the future world. Rumor had it that Lin Qinyao was a woman of extraordinary talents. She could recite poetry, refine salt, make soap, and even create cosmetics coveted by all the noble ladies in the capital. It was said that everyone who encountered her was utterly captivated by her brilliance, and Li Chengjin, who had always been so aloof and dignified, had fallen in love with her at first sight, his infatuation growing more intense with each passing day. Jiang Ruorin could only watch helplessly as the man she had once admired as a paragon of virtue and grace gradually slipped away into another woman's embrace. Before she knew it, Lin Qinyao had rushed out of the palace. Falling to her knees before Li Chengjin with tears streaming down her face, her heart filled with deep distress. "Chengjin, get up. Please stop this madness. I concede. I give up. All right, marry Miss Jiang. I am willing to be your secondary consort as long as you are safe and sound." Li Chengjin lifted his gaze, gently wiping the tears from her cheeks, his eyes brimming with tender affection. "Yao, do not cry. You once told me that being a secondary consort would be a humiliation in your world, so even if I have to die here today, I will never let you suffer such an injustice. I promised you, did I not? In this lifetime, you shall be my only wife." Lin Qinyao was moved to tears, her heart overflowing with emotion. She tried to say more, but before she could utter a single word, Li Chengjin leaned down and kissed her, silencing her protests with his lips. "Yao, my mind is made up." With that, he turned his gaze back to the executioners standing beside him. "Continue. If Father Emperor insists on this, I would rather die here than submit." The whip lashes fell relentlessly, mingling with the pouring rain, each strike landing heavily on his battered body. His blood mixed with the rainwater, staining the ground a vivid crimson. Finally, his strength gave out, and he collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Before slipping into darkness, he stared toward the imperial hall, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Father Emperor, my crown princess, can only be the woman I love. I beg you, revoke your imperial edict." Witnessing this heart-wrenching scene with her own eyes, Jiang Ruorin's body swayed slightly. At that moment, she finally accepted the harsh truth that Li Chengjin would never love her. If he had no place for her in his heart, why should she continue to stand between him and his beloved, causing pain to all involved? She, Jiang Ruorin, was brave enough to love deeply and wise enough to let go gracefully. Her gaze lingered on Li Chengjin's bloodied, unconscious form as the imperial guards carried him to the imperial hospital in a panic. Then she straightened her robes and stepped into the imperial hall, kneeling before the reigning emperor of the realm. "Your Majesty, this humble daughter of a minister begs you to annul the betrothal between me and the crown prince." Upon hearing her request, a look of guilty conscience crossed the emperor's face. The scandal of the crown prince refusing to marry the daughter of a loyal war hero for a woman of unknown origin would surely tarnish the royal family's reputation if it spread further. Thus, when he heard her words, the emperor let out a long sigh, his tone softening as he tried to console her. "Ruorin, the marriage between you and the crown prince was a promise I made with my own mouth. Rest assured, so long as I live, you alone shall be the crown princess of the Eastern Palace." Jiang Ruorin forced a bitter smile. "Your Majesty, the crown prince and I are simply not destined to be together. Matters of the heart cannot be forced. Now, the Toba clan has repeatedly violated our borders, plunging the people of the frontier into endless suffering. Without capable generals to lead our armies, we have lost 12 border cities. Therefore, today I beg you, allow me to lead the imperial army to the frontier. Let me reclaim the land that has been stolen from us, and restore peace to the suffering people of the border." At her words, the emperor's expression turned solemn instantly. "Ruorin, you are the last surviving member of the Jiang family. I swore to your father that I would protect you with my life. Leading an army to war is a perilous undertaking, fraught with the risk of death. I cannot agree to this. No matter what, rest assured, I will handle the crown prince myself. You need only focus on preparing for your wedding." Jiang Ruorin shook her head firmly. "Your Majesty, precisely because I am the last descendant of the Jiang family, it is my sacred duty to uphold the peace of the realm and save the suffering people. If my father were still alive today, he would surely approve of my request upon learning of the dire situation at the border. I beg you, grant me permission to lead the army to battle." Hearing her words of unwavering loyalty and devotion to the country, the emperor could not help but recall the tragic scene of the entire Jiang family's funeral procession, their bodies draped in the Jiang family military flag, the streets lined with weeping civilians bidding them farewell. His eyes grew moist with tears. "What if you do not return?" Jiang Ruorin lifted her head, a faint yet resolute smile playing on her lips. "Then I shall not return." The emperor struggled with his decision for a long time, then slammed his palm down on the armrest of his throne with a resolute look. "Very well. Truly a worthy descendant of the Jiang family. In that case, I grant your request. Before you depart for the frontier, I shall grant you one wish, anything you desire. I will fulfill it." Jiang Ruorin fell silent for a moment, then her clear, steady voice echoed throughout the imperial hall, each word ringing with unshakable resolve. "If that is the case, Your Majesty, this humble daughter of a minister begs you allow the crown prince to marry Miss Lin as his lawful wife." The imperial edict was issued soon afterward. Watching the imperial messengers hurry off to deliver the decree, Jiang Ruorin knew that within days, the news of Li Chengjin's grand wedding would spread throughout the entire capital. Once upon a time, her greatest wish had been to walk beside him openly as his wife, but now, the woman who would stand by his side for the rest of his life would never be her again. She returned to the Jiang general's mansion, beginning to settle all her affairs. This journey to the frontier could end in glorious victory or in her death. She had to make thorough preparations, ensuring that all the servants of the general's mansion were properly taken care of, as she had anticipated. Upon learning that the emperor had finally agreed to his marriage to Lin Qiniao, Li Chengjin was overjoyed. He immediately ordered artisans to set off fireworks outside the moat to celebrate. To share his joy with the entire nation, he even hosted a grand feast for all the common people of the capital. news of Li Qingjin's lavish spending spread like wildfire, and nearly every citizen in the capital praised the couple's fearless love that had defied royal authority and societal norms. The Crown Prince is truly a man of profound love and loyalty. I heard that for their wedding ceremony. He personally ordered that all the customs of Miss Lin's hometown be strictly observed. She is not even the Crown Princess yet, and the Crown Prince has already filled the entire Eastern Palace with plum blossoms, her favorite flowers. What an extraordinary honor, and there's more. I heard from the servants of the Eastern Palace that when Miss Lin felt hungry in the middle of the night, the Crown Prince personally cooked noodles for her. The rumors and gossip swirled around her endlessly. But Jiang Ruorin paid them no heed. That was, until the Prime Minister's daughter hosted a spring banquet, inviting all the nobles and aristocrats of the capital to attend. To entertain her guests, she had prepared a special prize, a rare and exquisite jade bracelet. Originally, Jiang Ruorin had no interest in such literary gatherings of scholars and nobles, but when her servant brought her a drawing of the prize, she immediately made up her mind to attend the banquet. That jade bracelet had been her father's betrothal gift to her mother many years ago. It had gone missing under mysterious circumstances and had never been found since. Her parents had shared a deep and loving relationship, and the loss of the bracelet had always been a lingering regret in their hearts. Now that she knew its whereabouts, she was determined to retrieve it by any means necessary, so that she could place it before her parents' graves as a tribute, on the day of the spring banquet. Jiang Ruorin made a conscious effort to dress plainly, blending in quietly among the crowd of noble ladies. She had no desire to socialize with these aristocratic sons and daughters. Her only goal was to retrieve the jade bracelet and leave as quickly as possible. But the tree that desires peace is often shaken by the wind. Despite her best efforts to keep a low profile, her presence did not go unnoticed for long. Several noble ladies surrounded her, blocking her path with malicious grins. Well, if it isn't Miss Jiang, having just been jilted by the Crown Prince, you still have the audacity to show your face in public. You certainly have a thick skin. They laughed behind their fans, their eyes filled with malicious delight as they watched her with amusement. Yes, indeed. Everyone in the capital knows that the Crown Prince knelt outside the palace gates for 3 whole days and endured 72 whiplashes. All to beg His Majesty to annul his betrothal to you so that he could marry Miss Lin as his crown princess. You are nothing but a rejected woman now. Little did they know that it was Jiang Ruorin herself who had begged the emperor to annul the betrothal and allow Li Qingjin to marry Lin Qinyao. Their mocking words were filled with disdain, for what respect could they possibly have for a woman spurned by the Crown Prince? Jiang Ruorin chose not to respond. Refusing to engage in a petty argument with them, she turned to leave, only to collide with Li Qingjin, who was escorting Lin Qinyao to the banquet. Upon seeing her, his brows furrowed slightly into a deep frown, his tone cold and indifferent. I assume you have heard the imperial edict. Father Emperor has annulled our betrothal. I do not wish to be too harsh on you, so when Yarrow enters the Eastern Palace as my crown princess, you may come as my secondary consort. The wedding date has been set. In 7 days' time, you and Yarrow shall enter the Eastern Palace together. But I want you to understand, my heart belongs only to Yarrow. As long as you behave yourself with due propriety, the Eastern Palace will ensure your comfort and security for the rest of your life. 7 days' time. Was that not the very day she was scheduled to depart for the frontier? She was about to speak up, to refuse his offer, to tell him that their betrothal was already over, that she would never be his concubine, let alone marry him again. But before she could open her mouth, he was called away by someone else and left without a second glance. Watching his retreating figure, she let out a soft, helpless sigh. Lin Qinyao, however, did not leave with him. She sized Jiang Ruorin up and down, then let out a cold, mocking laugh. So you are Jiang Ruorin. No wonder the Crown Prince does not love you. The Crown Prince has already annulled your betrothal, yet you still deliberately appear before him. Are you still clinging to the vain hope that he might change his mind? I advise you to give up once and for all. The Crown Prince would even risk his own life for me. He will never spare you another glance, no matter what you do. With that, she swept her eyes over Jiang Ruorin once more. her gaze filled with undisguised contempt and condescension. Honestly, you women confined to the inner chambers are truly pitiful products of a feudal era, clinging mindlessly to men, destined never to win their hearts. Can you recite a poem that will stand the test of time? Can you make soap or refine salt? Can you stand up to tyranny? Only a free-spirited, independent woman of the new age like me can capture the heart of such an honorable man, listening to her slanderous words. Jiangruorine couldn't help but find the whole thing laughable. She lifted her cold gaze to meet the woman's eyes. In the past, she had heard countless tales of Lin Qinyao's supposed magical feats and had thought her to be an extraordinary woman. That was why she had never resented Lin Qinyao for winning Li Qingjin's heart. But now, hearing her speak such words, Jiangruorine felt nothing but profound disappointment. There was not a trace of the freedom and unrestraint she claimed to possess as a New Age woman in her demeanor. All she had was malice and prejudice toward other women. Seeing that Jiangruorine remained silent, Lin Qinyao grew bolder, her attacks becoming more vicious, her words dripping with disdain for them all. Jiangruorine could stand it no longer. She finally spoke up to refute her. Miss Lin, if you are indeed a woman of the New Age, why are your thoughts so rigid and full of prejudice? Men and women each have their own duties to fulfill. Women are by no means inferior to men. While men toil outside, women manage the household affairs from within. In our dynasty, the number of women renowned for their literary talents is no less than that of men. What's more, there are women who have practiced martial arts since childhood, defending our homeland and fighting bloody battles on the battlefield. You claim to be capable of anything, Miss Lin. But I ask you, can you do needlework? Can you lead an army into battle? Lin Qinyao's expression darkened slightly. The realm is peaceful and prosperous now. Why talk of war? Besides, what has war got to do with women? Have you ever seen a woman dare to march onto the battlefield? Jiangruorine cut her off sharply. Peaceful and prosperous. The northern border has never been at peace. War is imminent. You claim to be so knowledgeable, how could you not know this? Lin Qinyao was left speechless. Her face flushed with anger as she struggled to find a retort, then her eyes suddenly fell on the drawing of the prize bracelet clutched in Jiangruorine's hand, and her gaze turned fierce. I'm wasting my breath talking to you. You want that bracelet, don't you? Just you wait and see. The competition at the spring banquet began in earnest. Desperate to win the bracelet, Lin Qinyao stepped forward first and recited Li Bai's asterisk invitation to wine asterisk in its entirety. The crowd was immediately dazzled by her literary talent, breaking into enthusiastic applause and praise, but some voices of doubt soon emerged. A fine poem indeed, but some of the references you made are truly unheard of. Do you not see the yellow river's waters rushing from heaven? What river is this yellow river? The Prince of Chen once held feasts in the Palace of Peace and Joy. Who is this Prince of Chen? Our dynasty has never had a noble with such a title. Miss Lin, what do you make of this? Someone even asked directly. Miss Lin, did you really write this poem yourself? Lin Qinyao's face turned red and then pale as she was bombarded with questions, unable to find a suitable explanation. Fortunately, she had been in the capital for quite some time and had amassed a large number of supporters. Seeing that she was being questioned, her loyal followers immediately stood up to silence the doubters. Finally managing to cover up the truth about the poem's authorship, although Lin Qinyao had stolen the spotlight, she had not achieved the desired effect. Seething with anger, she took the initiative to bring up Jiangruorine. I heard that Miss Jiang is the daughter of a military general and is also in attendance at today's spring banquet. I wonder if she has any talents to showcase to us. At her words, everyone's eyes instantly turned to Jiangruorine. Many of the guests laughed behind their fans, thinking to themselves that everyone knew the children of military families were only good for wielding swords and spears. How could they possibly be versed in such refined arts? They wondered why she had even bothered to come to a literary banquet like this. Despite the mocking stares of the crowd, Jiangruorine rose to her feet with calm dignity. In that case, I shall play a tune on the guqin for everyone. With that, she walked directly to the guqin and sat down, beginning to play the melody her mother had taught her, *wild geese descending on the sandy shores *. It was a piece of music filled with grandeur and power. As the first notes rang out, everyone was instantly captivated, drawn into the world of the melody. Though they were clearly sitting in a garden with gurgling streams, they felt as if they had been transported to the vast desert, with swirling yellow sand stretching as far as the eye could see. The sun setting in the west, and blood painting a tragic and solemn picture before their eyes. Even after the last note faded away, the crowd remained silent for a long time, still lost in the music. After a moment of quiet, the garden erupted into thunderous applause. Li Chengjin, who was usually so aloof and indifferent, looked at her with a hint of surprise in his eyes. The prize bracelet naturally fell into Jiang Ruorin's hands, watching as Jiang Ruorin stole all her thunder. Lin Qinyao flew into a rage, grabbing Li Chengjin's hand tightly. "Chengjin, I want that bracelet too." Li Chengjin comforted her patiently. "It's just an ordinary jade bracelet. I'll find you an even better one later." Seeing that her coquetry had failed to work, Lin Qinyao grew even more angry. Taking advantage of the crowd's distraction, she secretly walked up to Jiang Ruorin and smashed the bracelet she had just received into pieces on the ground. Jiang Ruorin watched helplessly as the bracelet shattered into countless fragments before her eyes, her heart feeling as if it had been torn apart along with it. She had never seen such an unscrupulous and disgraceful woman. A surge of anger flared up in her chest instantly, causing her to lose her composure completely. She couldn't help but raise her hand and slap Lin Qinyao hard across the face. Though she had been consumed by anger, she had only used 3 parts of her strength. But to her surprise, Lin Qinyao covered her face with her hands and collapsed dramatically to the ground. At the same time, a figure suddenly darted forward like a gust of wind. Li Chengjin rushed to Lin Qinyao's side, roughly pushing Jiang Ruorin away before lifting Lin Qinyao gently into his arms. "Jiang Ruorin, who gave you the right to lay a hand on Yarrow?" Watching him defend Lin Qinyao so blindly, a sharp pain pierced her heart. Before she could even open her mouth to explain, Li Chengjin lashed out at her again. "Yarrow will be the crown princess in the future. You are nothing but a secondary consort. How dare you put yourself above her? To be so disrespectful now, what will you do in the future? Will you not even show me the proper respect?" Lin Qinyao quickly stepped forward to intercede on her behalf, but her words were filled with malice, leaving no room for mercy. "It's all right, Chengjin. I'm sure she already knows she was wrong. Why not punish her with the finger kang as a warning?" Li Chengjin froze for a moment. Though he was angry, he had not intended to impose such a severe punishment on her. Seeing that he seemed to be wavering, Lin Qinyao put on a look of great grievance and said, "Chengjin, if we do not set a clear rule today, I'm afraid she will only dare to attack me again in the future. You know how skilled she is in martial arts. I'm so delicate and fragile, I would never stand a chance against her." Watching his beloved woman look so wronged, Li Chengjin finally hardened his heart, his voice turning cold and stern. "As you wish, Yao, punish her with the finger kang. Guards, carry out the punishment. This is unjust, I never hurt her." Jiang Ruorin stared at him in disbelief, reaching for her sword to stop them. But Li Chengjin shielded Lin Qinyao behind him and shouted angrily, "Jiang Ruorin, I am the crown prince, and you are merely the daughter of a minister. Do you dare to defy your superior? Where is the loyalty and righteousness of the Jiang family that you are so proud of?" Looking at the man before her, her eyes filled with tears, her heart wrenching with pain. So he did know that the entire Jiang family had died loyal to the country, sacrificing their lives on the battlefield. Yet for the sake of a casual slander from Lin Qinyao, he would humiliate her, the last surviving member of that loyal family. How could it not break her heart? The sword was roughly wrenched from her grasp. At his command, the servants immediately brought forward the torture device. Jiang Ruorin had practiced martial arts since childhood, enduring countless injuries over the years. She had never even frowned at the pain of those wounds, large or small. But now, the excruciating pain of the finger kang clamping down on her fingers, pain that seemed to pierce straight to her heart, caused her to bite her lip until it bled. It hurt so much. She had to bite her lip hard to keep from screaming out in agony. Li Chengjin's brows furrowed tightly into a deep frown, a flicker of reluctance appearing in his eyes. Jiang Ruorin, as long as you admit your mistake, I will order them to stop. She lifted her head stubbornly, her eyes blazing with unyielding determination. I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize? The flicker of reluctance in Li Chengjin's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by nothing but anger. He ground his teeth together, staring at her coldly. Stubborn fool. With that, he turned to the servants standing nearby and snapped, "Did you not eat your fill? Can't you hear that she still refuses to admit her mistake?" Upon hearing his words, the servants immediately tightened their grip on the torture device, increasing the pressure. A wave of searing, heart-rending pain washed over Jiang Ruorin, and her vision went black. She lost consciousness completely. When she woke up again, she was back in the Jiang general's mansion. The steward, Uncle He, was applying medicine to her injured hands. Seeing how severely injured she was, his old eyes were red and swollen, his fingers trembling uncontrollably. Ever since the entire family had perished in battle, Uncle He had been the only person left in the world who was truly close to her. He had raised her since she was a child. Though his official title was steward, he was more like a beloved family member to her. It pained him more than anyone else to see her hurt like this. "Miss, your hands are injured so badly. How will you lead the army into battle in 7 days' time?" Jiang Ruorin forced a weak smile to comfort him. "It's all right. I've endured far worse injuries than this before. This is nothing. It doesn't even hurt." He knew she was only saying this to console him, and his heart ached even more for her. Just then, a servant rushed in to report that the crown prince had arrived. Hearing this, the steward immediately set down the medicine jar, rose to his feet, and hurried to open the door. He knelt down heavily on the threshold. "Your humble servant greets your Royal Highness the Crown Prince." His mind was filled with worry for Jiang Ruorin. He did not dare to lift his head, only kowtowing repeatedly and pleading earnestly, "Your Highness, our young lady is already injured. Please do not subject her to any more punishment. If you must punish someone, punish this old servant instead. My body is tough and rough, it can take it. But our young lady is about to march off to war." Before he could finish his words, Jiang Ruorin had already risen to her feet in a hurry and cut him off. "May I ask what brings your Royal Highness the Crown Prince here today?" Li Chengjin's brows were furrowed deeply, his face still cold and arrogant as ever. He pulled a small bottle of medicinal ointment from his bosom and tossed it into Jiang Ruorin's hands. His voice cold and indifferent, "This is a special medicinal ointment from the southern border, tribute to the palace. It will heal your hands completely. Also, it was I who ordered your punishment. If you want to hate someone, hate me, not Yao. From now on, you will behave yourself and follow the rules. Do not dare to target Yarrow again." With that, he turned and left without looking back. Jiang Ruorin stared at the small bottle of medicine in her hands, frozen in place for a long time. Then, she finally burst out laughing, a bitter, hollow sound. "Li Chengjin. Oh, Li Chengjin. So even when you take the trouble to come here, it's still for her, only to ensure that I will not seek revenge against her in the future. But you have no need to worry. From now on, there will be no further ties between me, you, and her." The next day was the Lantern Festival. Lin Qinyao sent someone to invite her to join her and Li Chengjin for a tour of the lanterns. Jiang Ruorin knew that Lin Qinyao was consumed by jealousy over Li Chengjin sending her the medicinal ointment, and that her invitation to go lantern viewing together was undoubtedly a trap. She was about to refuse, but as if Lin Qinyao had anticipated her refusal, she had even sent Li Chengjin's jade pendant, the symbol of his status as crown prince, to force her hand. With no room to refuse, she had no choice but to go. When the three of them met, Li Chengjin's face darkened with displeasure at the sight of her. "This is a private outing for Yarrow and me. What are you doing here?" Lin Qinyao quickly stepped in to smooth things over, smiling sweetly. "I invited her to come. She will be the secondary consort in the future, so we will be like sisters, Chengjin. You must not show favoritism, or people will think I'm bullying her." Li Chengjin's brows were still tightly furrowed, but his tone softened into an unprecedented tenderness. "Yarrow, in this lifetime, you are the only one I will ever touch. No matter how many others I may take as consorts, they will be nothing but empty ornaments. Why should we care about the gossip of others?" At his words, Lin Qinyao shot Jiang Ruorin a triumphant glance only to find her looking calm and composed. As if his words meant nothing to her at all, along the way, the couple grew even more intimate. Li Chengjin showered Lin Qinyao with endless care and doting affection. To see a man of such lofty status humble himself so deeply for love filled countless onlookers with envy. Only Jiang Ruorin followed silently behind them, never uttering a single word. As the Lantern Festival drew to a close, the three of them prepared to return to their respective mansions, but halfway there, a group of assassins suddenly sprang out from the shadows, blocking their path. In his eagerness to spend time alone with Lin Qinyao, Li Chengjin had not brought any bodyguards with him. Outnumbered, he was soon forced into a disadvantaged position. Spotting an opening, one of the assassins raised his sword and lunged straight at him. At that very moment, Lin Qinyao threw herself in front of Li Chengjin without a second thought. Li Chengjin's eyes widened in horror, his voice trembling with fear. Yao, fortunately, his hidden guards arrived just in time, quickly overpowering and capturing the assassins. But these were all dead men who had sworn loyalty to their cause. They swallowed poison and died before they could be interrogated. Lin Qinyao was injured. Li Chengjin was beside himself with anxiety. When he heard that her external wound required *Duanchong Cow*, heartbreak grass, as a medicinal guide, he wasted no time in leaving the city alone. Ignoring the desperate pleas of everyone around him to stay, he returned covered in cuts and bruises, yet his only concern was ordering the imperial physicians to brew the medicine. Then he sat by Lin Qinyao's bedside, gently feeding her the bitter concoction with his own hands. Watching the two of them nestled together in such tender intimacy, Jiang Ruorin could not help but sigh bitterly to herself. She really had lost this battle completely, hadn't she? Her presence here now was nothing but an intrusion. Without a second glance, she turned and walked away quietly, but she never could have imagined that in the dead of night, a group of men would suddenly break into her mansion and forcefully drag her back to the Eastern Palace. She stared in confusion at the furious Li Chengjin standing before her. Before she could even open her mouth to ask what was going on, he pressed the tip of his sword against her throat, his voice cold and accusing. "You ordered those assassins to attack us, didn't you?" His words struck her like a bucket of freezing cold water, jolting her completely awake. Before she could defend herself, Li Chengjin continued, his voice dripping with venom. "Although the men you sent were all dead men, we still managed to capture one who slipped through the cracks. He has already confessed. You deliberately ordered them to assassinate me, planning to step in and take the blow for me afterward. You wanted to use this so-called life-saving grace to blackmail me into changing my mind and making you my crown princess. Jiang Ruorin, how did I never see what a scheming, conniving woman you really are?" She stared at him in disbelief, feeling a surge of absurdity wash over her. She was utterly speechless, unable to defend herself against such outrageous accusations. "I have never laid eyes on those assassins before in my life. And I have never once had such shameless thoughts as you accuse me of." Lin Qinyao let out a cold, mocking laugh from the side. "Miss Jiang certainly is good at playing the victim. If your little plan had succeeded, you would have become the crown princess. And if you had failed to take the blow for him as planned and I had died instead, you would have benefited even more. Truly a brilliant scheme to kill two birds with one stone." As she listened to Lin Qinyao's twisted analysis, Jiang Ruorin finally realized the truth. This had all been an elaborate trap set by Lin Qinyao from the very beginning. She had been willing to injure herself just to frame her. But in that moment, Jiang Ruorin also understood that any explanation she offered would be completely pointless. Because Li Chengjin loved Lin Qinyao, her words were the only truth that mattered to him. Seeing her look of utter resignation, as if she had given up all hope of proving her innocence, Li Chengjin grew even more infuriated. "Jiang Ruorin, I am telling you for the last time, no matter what you do, the only woman I will ever love is Yao. She alone will be my crown princess. No matter how many more schemes you concoct, I advise you to abandon your futile hopes once and for all." A sharp, searing pain tore through Jiang Ruorin's heart. She lifted her head and stared directly into his eyes, her voice calm and steady despite the agony she felt. "Then I ask you, Your Royal Highness, how do you intend to punish me today? Will you have me tortured again? Li Chengjin's face darkened. He raised his hand and swept the wine cups off the table, shattering them into 1,000 pieces on the floor. He did not give her a direct answer, but the very next day, he invited all the nobles, officials, and young ladies of noble birth in the capital to a grand feast at the Eastern Palace, in front of all the assembled guests. He took Lin Qinyao's hand in his own and announced in a loud, clear voice, "I ask you all to bear witness today. From this day forward, I and Yarrow shall be husband and wife, bound to each other for life. I shall never take another wife or consort as long as I live." The crowd exchanged shocked glances, instantly recalling his earlier announcement that he intended to take Jiang Ruorin as his secondary consort. Someone finally plucked up the courage to ask, "Your Royal Highness, what about Miss Jiang?" Then, he let out a cold, bitter laugh, each word grinding out through clenched teeth. "She is nothing but an ornament forced upon me by Father Emperor. From now on, she shall be no more significant than a vase to be placed on a shelf and ignored." The crowd fell silent, none daring to speak a word of protest. They could only sigh inwardly. Mourning the tragic fate that awaited Jiang Ruorin, she would never win her husband's love for the rest of her life. For women confined to the inner chambers, their entire lives depended on the favor of their husbands. By speaking such cruel words, he had made it crystal clear to everyone that her future would be filled with nothing but endless suffering. No one would ever respect her again. She would be condemned to a lifetime of whispered gossip and pointed fingers. Jiang Ruorin finally understood. This was his revenge for the so-called assassination plot, a warning to her never to overstep her boundaries again. At the end of the banquet, the Eastern Palace lit 10,000 sky lanterns to pray for Lin Qinyao's recovery. As countless lanterns inscribed with words of blessing rose slowly into the night sky, Li Chengjin lowered his head, wrapped his arm around Lin Qinyao's waist, and kissed her lips tenderly. She smiled shyly up at him, and the two of them clung to each other, deepening the kiss as if no one else existed in the world. Jiang Ruorin watched them with a calm, impassive expression, turning to leave only to be stopped by the palace guards standing nearby. "His Royal Highness has ordered that Miss Jiang must stay and watch until all the lanterns have been released before she is permitted to leave." He had truly gone to great lengths just to break her heart completely. But he had no idea that her heart had already died the moment she saw him kneeling outside the palace gates, begging the emperor to annul their betrothal. That was why she had granted him his freedom so readily. She was a woman of decisive action, never one to cling desperately to a love that was lost. Why would she ever waste her time pining after a man who wanted nothing to do with her? 5 days before her departure for the frontier, the emperor organized a grand hunting expedition. Inviting all his officials to participate, every year, the emperor would award a grand prize to the person who caught the most prey during the hunt. Lin Qinyao, who had never witnessed such a spectacle before, begged Li Chengjin to take her along with him, but she had never learned how to hunt, nor did she know how to use a bow and arrow or ride a horse. She could only stand by helplessly, watching as the others rode their horses through the forest, filled with frustration. At the end of the hunt, Jiang Ruorin personally captured an extremely rare white fox, presenting it to the emperor as a gift. The emperor was overjoyed, immediately bestowing upon her the largest luminous pearl in the entire kingdom as a reward. Watching Jiang Ruorin steal the show once again, Lin Qinyao's eyes burned with jealousy. Desperate to win the emperor's favor and draw everyone's attention back to herself, she deliberately went to the emperor and curtsied deeply, as if presenting a priceless treasure. "Your Majesty, you seem to have enjoyed yourself greatly during today's hunt. This humble daughter has composed a poem, hoping to bring a smile to your Majesty's face." But to her surprise, the emperor was not amused. He merely frowned coldly, his voice sharp with disapproval. "Today is a hunting expedition, not a poetry recital. Have you come to the wrong event, young lady?" Lin Qinyao's face turned bright red with embarrassment, then pale with humiliation. It was Li Chengjin who stepped forward to rescue her from her predicament. "Yarrow only wished to add to your enjoyment today, Father Emperor." Afterward, he pulled Lin Qinyao aside to comfort her, his voice soft with affection. Father has always valued martial prowess over literary talent. You must not take his words to heart. You like that luminous pearl very much. Do you not? I will get it for you." As soon as the hunt was over, he went directly to Jiang Ruorin. Unfastening the jade pendant that had hung from his waist for more than 20 years and holding it out to her, "You have always wanted this, have you not? Give me the luminous pearl, and the pendant is yours." This jade pendant had been a gift from his late mother, given to him before she passed away, and now, he was willing to part with it just to get the luminous pearl that Lin Qinyao desired so badly. She forced a bitter smile to her lips. Silently pulling the luminous pearl from her bosom and placing it in his outstretched hand before turning and walking away without a single word. Once upon a time, she had wanted that jade pendant so badly because she loved him. Owning something that belonged solely to him had felt like the greatest joy in the world. But now, she no longer wanted it or him at all. 4 days before her departure, she left the city and traveled to the countryside to pay her respects to her deceased family members. She had no idea when she would return from this journey, if she ever returned at all. As she rode her horse back toward the city gates, she saw her personal maid running toward her, tears streaming down her face. Miss, Uncle, he is dead." Jiang Ruorin's body stiffened with shock, nearly causing her to fall off her horse. She struggled to regain her balance, her voice trembling with fear and disbelief. "Tell me exactly what happened." Now, the maid fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "Today, Uncle, he went to buy your favorite sweet Osmanthus cakes, but he accidentally offended Miss Lin. In a fit of rage, Miss Lin ordered her men to execute Uncle He by drawing and quartering his body. They threw his remains into the mass grave and forbade us from going to retrieve them. But the last piece of Osmanthus cake had already been bought by Uncle He fair and square. Miss Lin flew into a rage simply because he refused to give it up to her. Miss. Uncle He clung to that piece of Osmanthus cake until his very last breath. A wave of darkness swept over Jiang Ruorin's vision, as if 1,000 armies were trampling mercilessly over her chest. Her whole body felt as if it were about to split apart from the agony of her grief. She had only mentioned in passing that she craved Osmanthus cakes today. She had never imagined that this innocent remark would cost Uncle He his life. The entire Jiang family had perished in battle. Uncle He had raised her since she was a child. She had long regarded him as her only remaining family member in the world. Drawing and quartering, such a horrific, cruel form of execution. How could an elderly man like Uncle He have possibly endured such suffering? Why? After she had endured so much and backed down time and time again, could Lin Qinyao not just let her be? Her grief and anger were so overwhelming that she lost all sense of reason completely. She forced back the tears burning in her eyes, gripped the hilt of her sword tightly, and marched straight toward Lin Qinyao's residence. Her face was twisted with such rage and sorrow that none of the servants dared to stand in her way. She charged straight into the Eastern Palace, her eyes blazing with a single, unshakable resolve. Today, she would take Lin Qinyao's life to avenge Uncle His death. Her eyes were bloodshot with fury, her movements wild and unrestrained like a rabid beast that had broken free from its cage. But just as she burst into Lin Qinyao's courtyard, a familiar figure stepped out to block her path. Li Chengjin stood before her, his expression resolute, determined to protect Lin Qinyao from her wrath at all costs. "Ruorin, I already know what happened to your steward, but he was merely a servant. His death is not worth you throwing your own life away for." Her composure shattered completely. She charged forward, staring at him with cold, blazing eyes. "He was not a servant, he was my family. Move out of my way. Today, I will kill Lin Qinyao to avenge his death. She must pay with her life." Li Chengjin blocked her path, refusing to let her pass. "Jiang Ruorin, I admit that Yarrow was wrong to do this, but she did not mean for things to go this far. It was an accident." She laughed bitterly through her tears, her voice ringing with despair and fury. "An accident? Tell me, how does one accidentally order a man to be drawn and quartered? How does one accidentally throw his mutilated body into a mass grave? Uncle He lived an honest, hard-working life. What crime did he commit to deserve such a horrific punishment? Tell me." It was the first time he had ever seen her in such unbearable pain. His eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation, but his resolve remained unbroken. I'm sorry, but I cannot let you hurt Yao. Her anger threatened to consume her entirely, burning her from the inside out. Even now, after everything she has done, you still insist on protecting her. The law is the same for princes as it is for commoners. Today, she must pay for her crimes with her life. If you refuse to let me pass, then I will go to the emperor himself and beg him for an imperial edict to execute her. Li Chengjin's face darkened by the second. He said nothing more, stepping silently toward her until his body pressed against the sharp blade of her sword. Then, meeting her stunned gaze, he let the weapon drive deeper and deeper into his chest, inch by excruciating inch. Is this enough? If you insist on a life for a life, then let me pay her debt. Blood gushed forth in a crimson flood. Her hand froze on the hilt of the sword, her eyes filled with agonized despair. Li Chengjin, do you love her this much? His chest was soaked in blood, his consciousness growing hazy, yet he ground his teeth and answered without the slightest hesitation. Yes. Jiang Ruorin laughed until tears streamed down her face, tightening her grip on the sword. Very well, then you shall pay for her. Just as she was about to drive the blade clean through his heart, a swarm of royal guards charged out from behind her, knocking her unconscious with a heavy blow to the head. When she woke again, she found herself locked in the frigid depths of the imperial water dungeon, a place reserved for the most heinous of criminals. Its waist-deep waters teemed with venomous insects and rats. The mere sight of it was enough to drive ordinary men to madness. Yet she was left there to suffer for a full day and night before being dragged out. Li Chengjin stood before her, wrapped in a heavy cloak, his face deathly pale. I lost consciousness earlier. The guards saw you wounding me and dragged you here without knowing the full story. I will see to it that Uncle He receives a proper burial. Do not speak of a life for a life ever again. Attempting to assassinate the crown prince is a capital offense. This matter ends here. From now on, you and Yarrow will live in peace. She as my crown princess, you as my secondary consort. No more trouble between you two. Live in peace. No more trouble. She laughed, a cold, hollow sound. Looking up at the man she had once dreamed of marrying, she chose not to tell him she would never enter his eastern palace, speaking instead with quiet resolve. Your Royal Highness, do you know why I ever fell in love with you? His lips trembled slightly, but before he could answer, she continued, because you were different from all the others. When I was a child, I was bullied by those noble ladies for being the daughter of a military general. You stepped in to defend me, saying my father and brothers fought and died on the battlefield for this country, that I was more worthy than any of them to stand at the very heart of royal power and wealth. At the Imperial Academy, when my calligraphy was poor, you taught me stroke by stroke, never once calling me stupid. When I was afraid of thunderstorms, you climbed over the palace walls just to buy me my favorite chestnut cakes, with my father and brothers away at war. You were the first person to ever protect me like that. Perhaps you have long forgotten these things. They meant nothing to you, but they made me love you for more than a decade. Now I realize, when you reached out to help me back then, it was probably just a casual act of kindness. As the crown prince, you were expected to be benevolent, to treat the daughter of a loyal martyr with such courtesy. So later, when our betrothal was arranged, you began to avoid me, growing cold and distant. And when Lin Qinyao appeared, you were left with nothing but disgust for me. I misread your kindness, loved the wrong person. She smiled faintly, but her eyes were as cold as ice. From now on, I will never love you again. She pointed to her own heart. Here, there is not a trace of you left. With those words spoken, she felt no more lingering attachments. She rose to her feet, stumbling slightly as she walked out of the dungeon. Li Chengjin stood rooted to the spot for a long time before finally coming to his senses. He wanted to chase after her, but when he looked up, she was already gone, her figure vanishing into the distance. He thought to himself he had never truly hated her. Not really. If Lin Qinyao had never appeared as the crown prince, he would have accepted his fate and married her as his crown princess without complaint. It was Lin Qinyao who had opened his eyes, telling him that people should be free and independent, that they should not accept the lives others planned for them, that they should pursue their true love. and his true love could never be Jiangruorin, the woman his father had chosen for him. So this was their destined end. The night before her wedding, Li Chengjin sent someone to deliver her wedding dress and jewelry. With the servants came Lin Qinyao's personal maid, staring at the plain, simple wedding dress and jewelry laid out on the tray. The maid's eyes dripped with contempt. Miss Jiang is only a secondary consort. After all, my lady is the true crown princess. Since you are entering the Eastern Palace on the same day, it is only right that the finest things go to my lady. This dress and jewelry are already more than generous of her. It was my lady who begged His Royal Highness to send them to you. You know, otherwise, you would have no wedding dress at all, just a simple sedan chair to carry you through the side gate of the Eastern Palace. I hope some people know how to be grateful for my lady's kindness, and stop coveting things that do not belong to them. Jiangruorin heard the blatant arrogance in her words, but instead of flying into a rage as the maid had expected, she did not even spare her a glance. Frustrated by her lack of reaction, the maid huffed and left in a huff. As soon as they were gone, Jiangruorin rose to her feet. Gathering the wedding dress and jewelry into a pile before throwing them all into the blazing hearth, she had no use for these things. They would only serve as a reminder of a life she no longer wanted. The flames roared higher, consuming the last of the jewelry. Just then, a voice sounded behind her. "What are you burning?" It was Li Chengjin. She wondered why he had come here on the eve of their wedding, but she did not care enough to ask. Her tone was indifferent. "Something I no longer need." With that, she turned to leave, having no desire for further conversation. Li Chengjin stepped forward to block her path, his voice cold. "How long will you continue this childish tantrum? I have always loved Yao, and even if she committed 1,000 heinous crimes, I would still protect her with my life. I know you are grieving uncle his death, but I already took a sword wound for you. What more do you want?" She laughed again, but there was no humor in it. "If you love Lin Qingyao so much, then go to her. What are you doing here with me?" For the first time, he was left at a loss for words, irritation flashing across his face. "I came here out of kindness, to check on you, and to warn you, tomorrow, you will be a member of my Eastern Palace. No more trouble. Do you understand?" She shook her head. "I will never be a member of your Eastern Palace, so do not worry. I will not stir up trouble, and I will not bully your precious Lin Qingyao. Does that put your mind at ease?" He did not catch her quiet declaration that she would never enter his palace, assuming instead that she had finally surrendered to her fate. A look of relief crossed his face. "Good, that is all I ask." With that, he turned to leave, but she called out to him suddenly, "Li Chengjin, farewell." Using the crown prince's given name was a violation of palace rules, yet for some reason, he did not feel angered by it. Instead, he found himself thinking of their childhood, how she had always called him by his name back then. "Li Chengjin, I was so happy when you taught me to write today. I will bring you candied hawthorns when I come to the palace tomorrow." "Li Chengjin, it is not your fault. Do not be afraid. I will kneel with you." "Li Chengjin, your mother has just become a star in the sky. Do not be sad. I will stay with you forever." So they had once shared such a deep bond. It was only as they grew older, as their betrothal was arranged, that he had begun to push her away, growing more and more distant. A strange, unfamiliar emotion welled up in his chest, but he forced it down, turning back to look at her. "Until our wedding day, tomorrow, I will only perform the wedding ceremony with my crown princess. As for you, the secondary consort, you will enter the Eastern Palace in a sedan chair through the side gate. The wedding night will be the same. I will go to Yao's chambers first, then come to see you in the middle of the night." Having said his piece, he finally turned and left, hurrying to make preparations for the grand wedding ceremony of the following day. He never heard her quiet reply, "There is no need, Li Chengjin. Tomorrow is the day I march to the frontier. In this wedding of yours, you will have a crown princess, but no secondary consort." On the day of the wedding, the entire capital was bathed in festive red. The wedding procession stretched for miles, heading toward the Eastern Palace, the sound of gongs and drums echoing through the streets in joyous celebration. At the very same moment, at the city gates, Jiangruorin mounted a black steed, leading an army of 100,000 soldiers as they marched out of the capital in a mighty procession. Warriors, follow me into battle, reclaim our 12 border cities, defend our homeland. The soldiers' roar shook the heavens. We pledge our lives to General Jiang. We will defend our homeland to the death. Forward, charge. Jiang Ruorin rode atop her powerful black horse, her figure tall and imposing, leading her 100,000 troops with unmatched valor. She marched resolutely toward the distant frontier. The howling wind whipped up clouds of yellow sand, yet it could not dim the unwavering resolve that blazed in her eyes. During the long march, Jiang Ruorin spared no effort to discipline her troops, constantly boosting their morale. Upon arriving at the frontier, she immediately threw herself into the intense, busy work of military strategy and deployment. Inside her command tent, she held a military map in her hands, her eyes blazing with determination as she addressed her generals in a steady, confident voice. Gentlemen, the enemy may appear strong in numbers, but they have marched a long distance to reach here. They are surely exhausted and fatigued. We must seize this golden opportunity to catch them off guard. One of the generals clasped his fists together, asking respectfully, General, in your opinion, where would be the best place to launch our attack? Jiang Ruorin's gaze was sharp and unwavering as her finger pointed precisely to a strategic location on the map. Here, this is where the enemy stores their grain and supplies. Its defenses are far weaker than their other positions. We will first send a small elite force to launch a feigned frontal assault, drawing their main army to the front lines. Then, I will personally lead our main forces to launch a surprise attack here, cutting off their supply lines. Without food and provisions, the enemy army will surely descend into chaos from within. The generals all shouted their agreement in unison, the tent filled with surging morale and fighting spirit. In their first battle against the enemy, Jiang Ruorin led by example, gripping her spear tightly as she charged into the enemy ranks like a bolt of black lightning. Shouting at the top of her lungs, Warriors, follow me, fight bravely, defend our home and country. Seeing their commander fight so fearlessly, the soldiers' morale soared to new heights. They charged into battle like tigers unleashed from their cages, fighting with unmatched ferocity and achieving a resounding victory in their very first engagement. That night, the frontier was quiet and still. Jiang Ruorin stepped out of her tent alone, gazing silently at the night sky over the borderlands. Just then, she faintly heard a soft, whimpering sound in the distance. Her hand went to the hilt of her sword as she scanned her surroundings, noticing a slight rustling movement in the grass before her. Who is there? She called out sharply, but only the silent night answered her. She took a few cautious steps forward. Suddenly feeling her foot step on something soft and warm, Jiang Ruorin pressed down gently with her toe, curiosity overcoming her caution. Arg! A muffled groan of pain cut through the silence. Jiang Ruorin leaned forward quickly, her eyes sharpening as she spotted a man lying on the ground, clad in a black robe. His already pale face looked even more ghastly under the pale glow of the full moon. Jiang Ruorin knelt down slowly, studying his features carefully. His eyebrows and eyes were exquisitely handsome, as if carved from fine jade with a delicate knife, impossible to ignore. Miss, help, please. The man's voice was faint and weak. Before he could finish speaking, his eyes rolled back, and he lost consciousness. It was then that Jiang Ruorin noticed his inner garment was soaked through with blood, hidden beneath the black robe where it was not easily seen. After a moment's hesitation, she made up her mind to carry him back to her tent. Having fought in countless battles over the years, Jiang Ruorin had often assisted the military physicians, picking up a smattering of medical skills along the way. She quickly stanched his bleeding, then took out the precious medicinal ointment bestowed upon her by the emperor himself, applying it to his wounds with the utmost care. Just then, the chief military physician hurried into the tent upon hearing the news. General, you treasure this ointment like it's your own life. Never willing to use it for yourself. Why, his injuries are too severe. Without this ointment, his wounds will surely fester, and he will not survive. Jiang Ruorin replied firmly. The physician looked confused. Jiang Ruorin had always been deeply caring toward her soldiers, but this man was a complete stranger. He felt the man's pulse, his expression growing increasingly grave. This man has been poisoned with yachongkao, ant mound grass poison. It is an extremely difficult toxin to neutralize. Jiang Ruorin's brows furrowed tightly with anxiety. Tell me what we need to do to cure him. Do not hold back. On Yulin Mountain at the frontier, there grows a type of grass called sanchunkao, three-spring grass. Every March, it sprouts new shoots. Those shoots, when crushed and made into medicine, are the only antidote to this poison. Jiang Ruorin's heart sank as she heard this. Yulin Mountain was a heavily fortified enemy stronghold. Riddled with ambushes, venturing there would be tantamount to walking into the jaws of death. But how could she stand by and watch this man die? Cough, 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 At that moment, the man on the bed stirred suddenly. Jiang Ruorin leaned over him quickly, her voice soft with concern. How are you feeling now? Are you in any pain? The man shook his head slightly, his voice weak yet surprisingly melodious. My name is Xinxingchen. Thank you for saving my life, miss. Jiang Ruorin felt her cheeks flush slightly at the sound of his voice, looking away awkwardly. Now that you're awake, you can dress yourself. His robe had been partially undone while she treated his wounds. If the military physician hadn't been present in the tent, the atmosphere would have been embarrassingly intimate. Jiang Ruorin stepped out of the tent, the night wind at the frontier cutting at her face like a knife, sharp and biting. She pulled her cloak tighter around herself instinctively. But the cold still seeped through, wrapping around her bones. In her mind's eye, she could see nothing but Xinxingchen's pale yet strikingly handsome face. The military physician's words echoed in her ears like a haunting ghost. Sanchunkao can cure General Shen's poison, but Yulin Mountain is swarming with enemy troops. Going there is a death sentence. Yet the thought of Xinxingchen dying from lack of treatment felt like an invisible hand was squeezing her heart, causing her immense pain. General, it is late. You should rest. We have battle to fight tomorrow, her deputy general said quietly, approaching her silently. Jiang Ruorin nodded. You are right. You should also get some rest. Do not let your guard down. Keep the camp secure. Back in her tent, Jiang Ruorin lay on her simple camp bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Meanwhile, back in the capital city, inside the brightly lit red wedding chamber of the Eastern Palace, Li Chengjin held Lin Qinyao tightly in his arms. His eyes filled with tender affection. Yao, from this day forward, you are my crown princess. Lin Qinyao nestled against his chest like a docile kitten, her voice soft and coquettish. Chengjin, I love you so much. And I, you, Li Chengjin replied gently. Just then, a guard's urgent voice rang out from outside the chamber. Your Royal Highness, something terrible has happened. Lin Qinyao's delicate eyebrows furrowed in annoyance. Today is my wedding day with His Royal Highness. Whatever it is can wait until tomorrow, Your Royal Highness. Did you not hear the Crown Princess? Get out of here at once. Li Chengjin snapped irritably. The guard sighed helplessly, turning and leaving the chamber. For some reason, an inexplicable sense of unease gnawed at Li Chengjin's heart. A nagging feeling that something was terribly wrong. He had heard no word of Jiang Ruorin all day. By rights, as his secondary consort, she should have entered the Eastern Palace hours ago. After Lin Qinyao had fallen fast asleep, Li Chengjin rose quietly from the bed and stepped out of the wedding chamber. Seeing him emerge, the guard hurried forward, trembling with fear. Your Royal Highness, General Jiang is gone. What did you say? Li Chengjin stared at him in disbelief, as if he had misheard. In an instant, he recalled the sight of Jiang Ruorin burning those items in her mansion. His heart skipped a beat, the blood in his veins turning to ice. When did she disappear? Why wasn't I informed sooner? After the wedding sedan chair arrived at the Eastern Palace, we discovered it was empty. But Your Royal Highness was busy with the wedding ceremony with the Crown Princess. We simply couldn't find an opportunity to report it to you. That is why we were delayed. Li Chengjin's eyes turned bloodshot with rage, his voice roaring like thunder. What are you standing there for? Send men to find her at once. He paced back and forth frantically along the palace corridor, his shadow flickering wildly in the candlelight, looking more and more agitated with each passing moment. Send more men. I want her found, no matter what. The guards bowed their heads, accepting his orders before rushing off. The sound of their horse hooves echoing loudly in the silent night. Li Chengjin returned to the wedding chamber, sitting down on the edge of the bed and staring at the sleeping Lin Qiniao. His mind was in complete chaos. Jiang Ruorin's sudden disappearance filled him with a deep sense of foreboding. As soon as dawn broke, Li Chengjin could no longer sit still. He mounted his horse, joining the search party personally. Hours passed, however, and there was still no sign of her. Just then, the emperor's personal eunuch arrived in a hurry. "Your Royal Highness, His Majesty commands your immediate presence at the palace." Li Chengjin followed the eunuch to the Chenqian Palace. No sooner had he stepped through the door than a wine cup came flying toward him, hitting him square on the forehead and leaving a bright red, swollen bump. "I do not understand why Father Emperor is so angry," Li Chengjin said, gritting his teeth against the pain. "How dare you ask me that?" The emperor roared, his eyes blazing with fury. "I have already dispatched General Jiang to the frontier, yet you are making a fool of yourself by sending half the capital to search for her. Do you want the entire world to laugh at us?" Li Chengjin stared at him in stunned disbelief. "She is my secondary consort. Why did you send her to the frontier without telling me?" The emperor's anger flared even hotter at his words. "Since when did I ever agree to let her be your secondary consort? It was you who insisted on marrying Lin Qiniao, and you who sought to humiliate General Jiang with that demeaning title." Li Chengjin felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck him. He collapsed to the ground, all the light fading from his eyes. How could this happen? Watching Shen Xingchen grow weaker by the minute, his face as pale as paper, Jiang Ruorin's heart was filled with anxiety. She immediately summoned a few of her most trusted generals to her tent in secret. Inside the tent, the candlelight flickered, casting a solemn glow over the faces of those assembled. "I intend to lead a small elite team personally to Yulin Mountain to find the Sanchunkao," Jiang Ruorin announced firmly. "General, you cannot. Yulin Mountain is a veritable dragon's den and tiger's lair. The enemy has stationed heavy troops there. This is a suicide mission," one general exclaimed, stepping forward with a look of urgent concern and clasping his hands together in a plea. Jiang Ruorin's eyes blazed with unshakable resolve. "He ended up like this trying to save me. I cannot stand by and watch him die. Furthermore, if we can find the Sanchunkao, we might also be able to scout out the enemy's defenses on Yulin Mountain. This could be a turning point in the war." Seeing her unwavering determination, the look of sheer desperation in her eyes, the others knew that further persuasion would be futile. They sighed deeply, bowing their heads in reluctant acceptance. The night was pitch black, like a vast black silk cloth draped over the entire world. Leading a small team of carefully selected warriors, Jiang Ruorin set off for Yulin Mountain under the cover of darkness. Moving silently and stealthily, they navigated the treacherous terrain with extreme caution. Avoiding enemy patrols at every turn, the cold wind howled around them the entire way. At long last, they reached the foot of Yulin Mountain. The moment they stepped into the forest, a thick, humid heat washed over them, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The forest was alive with the chirping and buzzing of strange insects, their eerie calls echoing through the trees and sending a chill down one's spine. "General, this forest is full of dangers. We must be extremely careful," a soldier whispered, his voice tight with tension. Jiang Ruorin nodded, her right hand tightening around the hilt of her sword. "Stay close to me. Keep your eyes peeled at all times. Do not let your guard down for a single moment." They pressed forward through the dense undergrowth, thorns tearing at their clothes, dew soaking their shoes and socks. Time and again, they encountered carefully laid traps and hidden enemy sentries lurking in the shadows. Each time, Jiang Ruorin led her men through the danger, emerging unscathed. Finally, deep within the forest, they spotted a patch of Sanchunkao growing amidst the underbrush. Its tender green shoots swayed gently in the breeze, exuding a faint, life-giving aura. A flicker of joy and relief flashed across Jiang Ruorin's face. She was about to step forward to pick the shoots when, in an instant, a large group of enemy soldiers surged out from the surrounding bushes, surrounding them like a flood. The enemy had known they were coming all along, laying a trap for them in this very spot. Jiang Ruorin's expression changed instantly. She spun around, barking orders to her men to resist. "Warriors, we have found the Sanchunkao. We must not let it fall into enemy hands. Fight! She raised her sword, her voice ringing out clearly through the forest as she charged at the enemy first. Moving like a bolt of black lightning, the battlefield erupted in chaos in an instant, the clash of swords and spears, the roar of battle cries shaking the trees. Jiang Ruorin fought fiercely, taking on 10 enemy soldiers at once. Her sword danced in her hand, swift and powerful, cutting down foes with every flash of its cold blade. But the enemy's numbers were overwhelming, wave after wave of soldiers crashing against them like a relentless tide. They were quickly driven into a desperate situation. The soldiers were covered in wounds, their blood staining the ground beneath their feet. Meanwhile, back at the frontier camp, Sun Xingchen had recovered enough to stand, thanks to the military physician's careful treatment, when he learned that Jiang Ruorin had ventured to Yulin Mountain alone to save him. His heart was filled with worry and guilt. Ignoring the physician's desperate pleas for him to rest, he picked up the sword lying beside his bed, stepping out of the tent resolutely. I cannot let her risk her life for me alone. I must go help her, Sun Xingchen said firmly, his voice steady despite his unsteady footsteps. On the battlefield at Yulin Mountain, Jiang Ruorin and her men were exhausted, their strength nearly gone, their bodies covered in wounds. Just as they were on the verge of despair, Sun Xingchen arrived with a squad of soldiers, appearing like reinforcements descended from the heavens. The moment Jiang Ruorin saw him, her heart skipped a beat with concern. What are you doing here? This place is far too dangerous. I could not let you face this danger alone, Sun Xingchen replied, joining the fight without hesitation and standing shoulder to shoulder with her. Jiang Ruorin was shocked to discover that this man possessed extraordinary martial arts skills. His swordsmanship was sharp and precise, his moves elegant and powerful, in no way inferior to her own. Fighting together, their combined strength turned the tide of the battle. The enemy soldiers were soon overwhelmed, forced to retreat in disarray. After repelling the enemy, both of them collapsed to the ground. Gasping for breath, Jiang Ruorin looked at Sun Xingchen. Her eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. Tell me the truth, who exactly are you? No ordinary man could possibly possess such extraordinary martial arts skills. Sun Xingchen's lips curved into a faint, mysterious smile. In time, you will find out, after the Sanchengkao was made into medicine. Its effect was nothing short of miraculous. The lethal poison in Sun Xingchen's body dissipated rapidly. As the days passed, his body gradually recovered, and his complexion became increasingly ruddy and healthy. Every day, he would find a quiet corner outside the tent, gazing silently at Jiang Ruorin's busy figure. When Jiang Ruorin directed the army's drills, her valiant and heroic bearing was like the warm spring sun, searing itself deeply into Sun Xingchen's heart. One day, after finishing her military duties, Jiang Ruorin dragged her slightly exhausted body back to her tent. There she found Sun Xingchen sitting upright at the desk, his slender fingers gently twirling a spear she had left unused for some time, its tassel swaying softly at his fingertips. Sensing Jiang Ruorin's entrance, Sun Xingchen rose immediately, striding forward with steady steps, a faint smile playing on his lips. General Jiang, you must be tired from today's drills. Jiang Ruorin waved a hand dismissively, swiftly removing her helmet and grabbing a cloth from the side to wipe the fine beads of sweat from her forehead. I'm used to it, but tell me, has your body fully recovered? Sun Xingchen nodded slightly, his deep gaze slowly falling on the spear, a glint of eagerness flashing in his eyes. General Jiang, your spear skills are exquisite beyond compare. I was fortunate enough to witness them that day at Yulin Mountain, and I have admired them ever since. I wonder if you would deign to teach me a thing or two. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin raised an elegant eyebrow, a spark of fighting spirit instantly igniting in her eyes as she replied with great enthusiasm, Teach you? Hardly, but a friendly spar between us would be quite entertaining. The two walked side by side to the spacious training ground outside the tent. Jiang Ruorin held the spear in her hand, her posture straight as a pine tree, the tip pointing directly at the sky. She struck first, her wrist flicking lightly, causing the spear tip to dance nimbly through the air with a whistling sound, kicking up clouds of dust from the ground. Sun Xingchen was not to be outdone. wielding his wooden sword with great vigor, cutting through the air in sharp, graceful arcs. For a time, the clash of spear and sword rang out with a resounding bang, bang. Seeing this, the surrounding soldiers gathered around in droves, forming a dense circle 3 layers deep around the two. Their cheers ringing out one after another. Bravo, beautiful, the shouts intertwined, echoing above the training ground. After an intense bout, Jiang Ruorin stopped, holding her spear upright, her hair slightly disheveled, but her cheeks flushed with the thrill of battle. Her eyes were filled with admiration as she looked at Shen Xingchen. Master Shen, your skills are superb. May I ask who taught you? Shen Xingchen merely curved his lips into a faint, mysterious smile. Shaking his head gently and replying humbly, I am but a man of the mountains. What I have learned is merely superficial, not worth mentioning. From that day on, Shen Xingchen often discussed military affairs with Jiang Ruorin, although he never volunteered information about his past. Whenever the topic turned to troop formations and military strategy, he spoke eloquently, offering unique and insightful perspectives. During a military conference to prepare for a large-scale counteroffensive, the atmosphere inside the tent was heavy and solemn. Jiang Ruorin stood before a huge map, her expression serious, pointing her finger at several key locations on the map. The enemy's defenses at these passes are extremely tight. If we launch a direct frontal assault, our army will surely suffer heavy losses. Does anyone here have a viable plan? The generals exchanged glances, their brows furrowed tightly. A heavy silence fell over the tent. With no one able to propose a feasible solution for a time, at that moment, Shen Xingchen rose to his feet, walking calmly to the map, and extended his finger to point at a hidden valley marked on it. General, this valley appears to be strategically dangerous and difficult to traverse. But from my observations over the past few days, the enemy's defenses here are relatively weak. If we dispatch a special forces unit to outflank the enemy from this route, coordinating with our frontal forces to launch a pincer attack, we might be able to break through the enemy's lines successfully. Jiang Ruorin's eyes lit up instantly, her gaze fixing firmly on the valley on the map. After thinking carefully for a moment, she nodded her head emphatically. An excellent plan. We shall proceed according to Master Shen's suggestion. With Shen Xingchen's assistance, the counteroffensive plan was implemented in an orderly manner. Jiang Ruorin personally led the main force to launch a feigned frontal assault. For a time, the battle drums roared, and the shouts of the soldiers shook the heavens, successfully diverting the attention of the enemy's main army. Meanwhile, Shen Xingchen led a carefully selected elite unit. Advancing silently along the hidden valley, the valley was overgrown with thorns, strewn with jagged rocks, and the path was rough and difficult to navigate, but under Shen Xingchen's leadership, the soldiers pressed forward without complaint, relying on their indomitable willpower to make the arduous journey. When they emerged unexpectedly behind enemy lines like troops descending from the heavens, the enemy camp was thrown into instant chaos, with soldiers panicking and fleeing in all directions. Jiang Ruorin seized the opportunity with keen intuition, resolutely ordering a full-scale general attack. Caught in a pincer between the two forces, the enemy was attacked from both sides, and their defensive line collapsed instantly. The battle was a resounding victory, with the army successfully recapturing several lost territories. After the battle, Jiang Ruorin hosted a feast in her tent to reward the soldiers. The tent was brightly lit, filled with the rich aroma of wine, and the air was alive with the sound of laughter and joy, the atmosphere warm and exuberant. Jiang Ruorin held a wine cup in her hand, walking lightly to stand before Shen Xingchen. Her gaze sincere as she smiled and said, Master Shen, this great victory is owed in large part to your brilliant strategy. This cup, I raise it to you. Shen Xingchen rose quickly, taking the wine cup with both hands. His eyes met Jiang Ruorin's, and in that moment, an indescribable tenderness and deep affection shone in his gaze. You flatter me, General. I merely did my humble part. To be able to assist you in recapturing our lost lands is truly my greatest honor. The two exchanged a smile, then tilted their heads back and drained their cups in one gulp. Perhaps it was the alcohol talking, but Jiang Ruorin suddenly leaned closer to Shen Xingchen, her cheeks flushed bright red. Chen, let's go for a walk outside. Shen Xingchen stiffened slightly, his voice tinged with surprise. What did you call me? Chen. Jiang Ruorin smiled like a carefree child. After that, the two of them stepped out of the tent. The moon was shining brightly tonight. The moonlight, like flowing water, spilled over the frontier wilderness, bathing the earth in a silvery glow. Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen walked side by side along the path outside the camp, the night breeze brushing gently against their faces, carrying a hint of coolness. Jiang Ruorin's cheeks were still flushed. Her steps slightly unsteady, clearly still under the influence of the wine. Shen Xingchen walked carefully beside her, fearing she might stumble and fall. Chen, do you know something? Jiang Ruorin suddenly stopped walking, turning around to face him, her eyes burning brightly as she looked at Shen Xingchen. I have never felt this light and carefree before in my life. Shen Xingchen was slightly taken aback, then smiled gently. You carry a heavy burden of responsibility every day. It is only natural that you should feel tired. Jiang Ruorin shook her head, a flicker of loneliness flashing in her eyes. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, light in my heart. Once, I was always bound by so many things. My heart filled with duty, mission, and feelings that should never have been there. Shen Xingchen fell silent for a moment, then asked softly, are you talking about His Royal Highness the Crown Prince? Jiang Ruorin did not answer directly, but merely lifted her head to gaze up at the night sky, where the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds, as if whispering endless stories. She took a deep breath, then spoke slowly. When I was a child, I thought he was my entire world. He protected me, taught me to write, and stayed with me through my loneliest days. But later, he changed, or perhaps it was I who changed. The distance between us grew wider and wider, until finally, he chose someone else. Shen Xingchen listened quietly, without interrupting her. But now, Jiang Ruorin suddenly smiled, her expression filled with relief. I no longer feel sad because of him. Chen, do you know, ever since you appeared, my life has seemed to change. I've realized that a life of freedom suits me far better than being trapped within the palace walls. A soft tremor ran through Shen Xingchen's heart, a complex look flashing in his eyes. He opened his mouth, as if about to say something, but in the end, he merely said softly, a general like you was born to shine brightly. You are a natural-born military genius, and you should never be bound by anyone. Jiang Ruorin turned her head, her gaze locking directly with Shen Xingchen's. Chen, when we are alone, you can call me Ruo Yin. Shen Xingchen nodded his head. But, Chen, who exactly are you? How come you possess such extraordinary martial arts skills? And why are you so well versed in military strategy? Who are you really? Shen Xingchen fell silent for a moment, a flicker of hesitation crossing his eyes. He knew that he could not continue to hide the truth forever. He took a deep breath, then spoke slowly. General, the truth is, I am the son of the Prince of the Northern Borderlands, the Prince of the Northern Borderlands. Jiang Ruorin froze for a moment, then her eyes widened in shock. You are the prince's son, but didn't the Prince of the Northern Borderlands die more than 10 years ago? Shen Xingchen nodded, a flash of pain crossing his eyes. 10 years ago, the Prince of the Northern Borderlands was executed by the Imperial Court on charges of treason. His entire family was arrested and beheaded. I was lucky enough to escape, changing my name and going into hiding. Wandering the rivers and lakes, all these years, I have been searching for an opportunity to clear my family's name of the false accusations. Jiang Ruorin stared at him in shock. Her heart filled with a jumble of emotions. She had never imagined that this gentle, jade-like man standing before her carried such a heavy and tragic past. But why did you come here? Jiang Ruorin asked. Shen Xingchen let out a bitter laugh. I originally intended to infiltrate the enemy army, hoping to find a chance to clear my family's name. Unexpectedly, I was ambushed along the way and seriously wounded. I was fortunate enough to be saved by you, General. Jiang Ruorin fell silent for a moment, then suddenly reached out and took Shen Xingchen's hand, her gaze firm and resolute. Chen, you have my word, I will help you. No matter what your family has been through, I will stay by your side and help you uncover the truth. Shen Xingchen looked at Jiang Ruorin, his eyes filled with boundless tenderness. their two figures stretched long in the moonlight, as if merging into one. On the other side, after Jiang Ruorin's departure, Li Chengjin had planned to travel to the frontier in person, only to be punished by the emperor with a month-long confinement in the Eastern Palace. Lin Qinyao could not understand why Li Chengjin had suddenly stopped looking at her altogether. Filled with pent-up anger that she had no way to vent, she took it out on the palace maids. 2 maids had their faces scratched by her. Yet Li Chengjin did not even bother to ask about it. "Your Royal Highness." The crown princess was just punishing the maids. She beat one of them to death. "Should you go and take a look? Let her do as she pleases. No need to report such trivial matters to me." The guard hesitated, looking as if he had more to say, which only served to irritate Li Chengjin further. "Speak your mind if you have something to say. Stop beating around the bush. Your Royal Highness, the maid the crown princess is punishing now is Miss Cheng. She is a close friend of General Jiang's, and was brought to the Eastern Palace by the general herself. If she dies, I'm afraid General Jiang will be deeply grieved." A flash of anger instantly flared up in Li Chengjin's eyes. "Let's go, we'll go see for ourselves." No sooner had they reached the outside of the hall than they heard Lin Qinyao's shrill roar from within. "You lowly wretch, did Jiang Ruorin tell you about what happened back then? If you know, keep it to yourself, don't go running your mouth, or I'll cut out your tongue." "Your Highness, I know my place. General Jiang told me that I must never do anything that would harm you," the maid replied tremblingly. Lin Qinyao slapped the maid hard across the face. "Do you think she's that kind-hearted? How dare you play such games with me? If His Royal Highness finds out what happened back then, I'll turn you into a human pig to feed the dogs." The maid's body shook violently. "Your Highness, I understand. I swear I'll keep my mouth shut forever." At that moment, Li Chengjin suddenly kicked the door open and strode inside, his face dark with rage. "What is it that you can't let me know?" Lin Qinyao's expression instantly changed into a simpering smile. "Your Highness, you're joking. It's nothing. This thief stole my hairpin, and I was just punishing her." Li Chengjin's eyes glinted with a cold, menacing light. Lin Qinyao flinched, clamping her mouth shut at once. His piercing gaze locked onto the trembling maid. "Speak. What exactly are you hiding from this prince?" The maid fell to her knees with a thud, tears streaming down her face as her body convulsed with fear. Seeing this, Lin Qinyao's heart skipped a beat. She stepped forward quickly, forcing a calm expression. "Your Highness, it's just a lowly maid who stole something. There's no need to waste your breath on her." But Li Chengjin ignored her, his eyes boring into the maid as if he could see straight through her. The maid glanced up at Li Chengjin timidly, then at the furious Lin Qinyao. After a moment of agonizing hesitation, she gritted her teeth and spoke up. "Your Highness, the person who saved you from the assassination attempt in the palace all those years ago, it wasn't Her Royal Highness the Crown Princess, it was General Jiang." Her words were like a boulder dropped into a still lake, sending shockwaves rippling in all directions. Li Chengjin's mind went blank with a buzzing roar, as if struck by a bolt of lightning. He stood rooted to the spot, frozen in disbelief. "What did you say? Say it again." His voice trembled. Filled with shock and disbelief, the maid shook violently with terror, but she dared not refuse. She repeated her words, her voice barely a whisper. "It was General Jiang who saved you back then. Your Highness, the Crown Princess, she lied to you." Li Chengjin slowly turned his head to look at Lin Qinyao, his eyes blazing with anger and profound disappointment. "Is this true?" Lin Qinyao's face turned as pale as a sheet, cold sweat beading on her forehead. She dropped to her knees with a thud, grabbing Li Chengjin's robe and weeping hysterically. "Your Highness, I did it because I love you so much. I was afraid of losing you, that's why I lied." Li Chengjin wrenched his robe out of her grasp, his voice roaring with fury. "How dare you lie to this prince? Do you think I won't kill you for this?" Lin Qinyao burst into floods of tears, kowtowing frantically to the ground, the sound of her forehead hitting the stone floor echoing dully. "Your Highness, please forgive me. I really know I was wrong." But Li Chengjin remained unmoved, his heart burning with rage. He wanted nothing more than to tear the deceitful woman in front of him to shreds. "From this day forth, you are no longer my crown princess. I divorce you, effective immediately." Lin Qinyao's eyes widened in horror as if struck by lightning. She lifted her head abruptly, her voice cracking with desperation. "Your Highness, you can't do this. I can't live without you." But Li Chengjin didn't spare her another glance. He turned on his heel and strode away without a backward look. Lin Qinyao collapsed to the ground in a daze, her eyes empty and hollow. She had never imagined that the elaborate lies she had woven would be so ruthlessly exposed, that everything she had painstakingly built would crumble into dust overnight. A seed of hatred took root and sprouted in her heart. She silently swore that she would make Li Chengjin pay dearly for his decision. Back in his bedroom, Li Chengjin's mind was filled with nothing but thoughts of Jiang Ruorin. He recalled every little moment he had spent with her as a child, back then. She had preferred swords and spears to makeup and jewelry, yet she had been sincere, kind, and endlessly caring toward him. But he had been blinded by Lin Qinyao's sweet words and honeyed lies, betraying Jiang Ruorin's deep affection for him. Now that the truth had come to light, he finally realized what a precious treasure he had lost. Regret and self-blame washed over him like a tidal wave. He smashed his fists against the table again and again until his knuckles were covered in blood. In the past, the Lin family had been guilty of forming cliques and abusing their power, with mountains of evidence against them. But because of Lin Qinyao, Li Chengjin had always covered up their misdeeds and swept their crimes under the rug. Now, the time had come to expose their evil deeds to the world. After that, Li Chengjin sent his most trusted confidants to gather evidence far and wide. Before long, he had obtained irrefutable proof of the Lin family's numerous crimes. When the emperor learned the truth, he flew into a rage and ordered a thorough investigation. In an instant, the capital was thrown into upheaval, and everyone in the Lin mansion lived in fear of the impending disaster. Upon hearing the news, Lin Qinyao was like an ant on a hot pan, pacing back and forth in a panic. Faced with the imperial investigation, Father Lin was beside himself with anxiety, desperate to save his family. He ran around begging for mercy from everyone he could think of, even swallowing his pride to plead with the officials he had once offended. But it was all in vain. As the investigation deepened, the Lin family's crimes were exposed one by one, with irrefutable evidence against them. Finally, the emperor issued an edict stripping Father Lin of his official position, arresting him for trial, and confiscating all the family's property. Overnight, the Lin family fell from the heights of power and wealth to the depths of ruin. Lin Qinyao became a pariah, spurned by everyone in the capital. Those who had once groveled at her feet and fawned over her now avoided her like the plague, watching her family fall apart before her eyes. Her heart was filled with despair and bitter resentment. Trapped in this hopeless situation, a crazy idea took root in her mind. If Li Chengjin had taken everything away from her, then she would make him taste the agony of losing everything he held dear. Lin Qinyao began to search frantically for any opportunity to take revenge on Li Chengjin. She wandered the streets and alleys of the capital day and night, trying to find some leverage against him. By chance, she met a down-and-out scholar. His name was Zhao Wen. Born into poverty, he had repeatedly failed the imperial examinations, and his heart was filled with hatred toward the imperial court. After talking to him, Lin Qinyao discovered that he also harbored a grudge against Li Chengjin. A devious plan began to form in her mind. She deliberately approached Zhao Wen, showering him with kindness and concern. Zhao Wen had lived a lonely life, and the sudden attention from such a beautiful woman stirred his heart. When the time was right, Lin Qinyao poured out her grievances to him, weeping as she told him how Li Chengjin had abandoned her. Her words stirred up his sympathy and anger. She then urged him to find a way to take revenge on Li Chengjin. Moved by her words and driven by his own resentment, Zhao Wen agreed to help her. From then on, Lin Qinyao and Zhao Wen colluded secretly, plotting how to frame Li Chengjin. They spread rumors everywhere that Li Chengjin was plotting treason, even forging letters as evidence. These rumors spread like wildfire through the capital, throwing the people into a state of panic. When the emperor heard the news, he was greatly shocked and immediately ordered an investigation. Upon learning of this, Li Chengjin was consumed with rage. He knew without a doubt that Lin Qinyao was behind this treacherous scheme. He sent men to gather evidence to prove his innocence. While secretly investigating Lin Qiniao and Zhao Wen's whereabouts, after painstaking efforts, Li Chengjin finally obtained irrefutable proof of their collusion. He took the evidence to the emperor and told him the whole story. After seeing the evidence, the emperor flew into a rage and issued an order to arrest Lin Qiniao and Zhao Wen at once. When Lin Qiniao learned that her plot had been exposed, she was seized with terror. She knew she was doomed. Yet a glimmer of hope still lingered in her heart. When the imperial guards broke into her hiding place, Lin Qiniao tried to resist, but she was easily subdued by the guards. She was brought before Li Chengjin. Her hair was disheveled, her face haggard and pale. She was a far cry from the glamorous woman she had once been. Li Chengjin looked at her with undisguised disgust. "You venomous woman, to take revenge on me, you committed such a heinous crime of treason. Today is your day of reckoning." But Lin Qiniao showed no fear. She let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Li Chengjin, do you think you've won? You lost Jiangruorin. Even if you kill me, you'll never win back her heart." Her words struck a painful chord in Li Chengjin's heart. He gritted his teeth, his voice cold with fury. "You brought all of this on yourself. You deserve every bit of it." With that, he drew his sword from its scabbard and stabbed it into Lin Qiniao's chest without hesitation. Your Highness, you're so cruel." Her words trailed off as her body crumpled to the ground, lifeless. Li Chengjin stared at the pool of blood spreading across the floor. But he felt nothing, not even the slightest flicker of emotion. After dealing with Lin Qiniao, Li Chengjin made up his mind to go to the frontier to find Jiangruorin, to apologize to her in person, and to beg for her forgiveness. Ignoring the emperor's objections, Li Chengjin resolutely set off on the long journey to the frontier. Along the way, he endured wind and frost, sleeping rough and traveling day and night without rest. But when he passed through the desert, he suddenly lost his way. Meanwhile, Jiangruorin had been so absorbed in discussing battle tactics with Shen Xingchen for days that she had forgotten to eat properly. Suddenly, she fainted and collapsed to the ground. Shen Xingchen was terrified. He quickly lifted her in his arms and carried her to the bed in her tent. Calling urgently for the military physician, the physician rushed over at once. After carefully feeling her pulse, he frowned with concern. "General, you must take better care of yourself and not overwork yourself. You've fallen ill from exhaustion and blood deficiency. If you continue like this, your body will not be able to hold on much longer," the physician said in a worried tone. Shen Xingchen stood by the bed, his handsome face etched with deep concern as he stared at Jiangruorin's pale face. "Physician, is there any effective remedy?" he asked anxiously, his voice trembling slightly with fear. The physician thought for a moment, then picked up his brush and wrote out a prescription, adding a few more words of advice. "She must take this medicine on time, and it's absolutely essential that she gets plenty of rest to recover her strength." After the physician left, Shen Xingchen stayed by Jiangruorin's side personally, his eyes never leaving her face for a moment. He gently took her hand in his. Her palms were covered with calluses from years of holding spears and swords, yet in his hands, they felt surprisingly soft and delicate. "Ruorin, you must get better soon," he murmured softly, his voice deep and tender with affection. A few days later, Jiangruorin's health gradually improved. Seeing her complexion returning to normal, Shen Xingchen's heart was filled with joy. "Ruorin, how are you feeling today?" he asked with a warm smile, his eyes brimming with concern. "I'm much better. Thank you for taking such good care of me," Jiangruorin replied with a smile. Trying to sit up from the bed, "Take it slow," Shen Xingchen hurried to support her. "The weather is lovely today, let me accompany you for a walk outside." The two wandered along the path beyond the frontier camp. In the distance, soldiers were conducting their daily drills, their battle cries echoing through the air. Watching the scene before her, Jiangruorin's heart was filled with a sense of contentment. "With you by my side, everything feels much smoother," she said. Turning to look at Shen Xingchen, a hint of tenderness in her eyes, Shen Xingchen was slightly taken aback, then smiled warmly. "It is my greatest honor to share your burdens." He paused for a moment, then asked softly, "Ruorin, once this war is over, what will you do?" Jiangruorin gazed into the distance. Lost in thought for a moment, I want to return to the capital to clear your family's name of those false accusations. After that, perhaps find a quiet place surrounded by mountains and rivers, and spend the rest of my days in peace," she replied, her voice soft yet firm with resolve. A flicker of emotion stirred in Shinshingchen's heart. He gently took her hand in his. "Ruorine, no matter where you go, I will always be by your side," he said, his deep eyes burning with a fierce, passionate light, as if he wanted to etch her image permanently into his soul. As autumn arrived quietly, the nights at the frontier grew increasingly cold. Shinshingchen had specially procured some colored paper and bamboo strips, and spent his evenings in the tent painstakingly making sky lanterns. These past few days, he had watched Jiang Ruorine tire herself out day and night, her face always etched with exhaustion. He had wanted to do something to make her happy. Once the idea of making sky lanterns had popped into his head, he couldn't let it go. He wanted to bring a touch of warmth and romance to her otherwise harsh and difficult life at the frontier. The colored paper rustled softly as he folded and shaped it with his hands. He carefully bent the bamboo strips into various frames, tying them securely with thin strings. He worked for hours, until finally, several delicate sky lanterns stood completed before him. Their bamboo frames were sturdy and well made, the colored paper stretched taut over them, glowing with a soft, warm light. Shinshingchen looked at his handiwork, a satisfied smile tugging at the corners of his lips, imagining the look of surprise on Jiang Ruorine's face when she saw them. His heart was filled with eager anticipation. When Jiang Ruorine finally finished her military duties and dragged her tired body back to the tent, she was instantly captivated by the sight that greeted her. Several sky lanterns hung neatly from the tent's ceiling, their soft light illuminating the entire space, adding a touch of warmth and coziness to the otherwise simple and austere tent. She froze for a moment, her eyes then falling on Shinshingchen, who stood beneath the lanterns, looking at her with a wide, happy smile. "Chen, did you make these?" she asked in astonishment, her eyes shining with delight. Shinshingchen stepped forward, gently taking her hand in his. "I did. I saw how hard you've been working these past few days, and I wanted to surprise you. The moon is perfect tonight. Shall we go outside to release them?" Jiang Ruorine nodded eagerly, walking out of the tent hand in hand with Shinshingchen. The night sky over the frontier was dotted with countless twinkling stars, the moonlight spilling over the earth like a river of silver. The two walked to an open clearing. Shinshingchen picked up one of the sky lanterns, carefully lighting the candle inside before gently holding it aloft. "Ruorine, come, let's make a wish together." Jiang Ruorine closed her eyes, clasping her hands together, and silently made a wish in her heart. She only wished for peace for her country, and for safety and happiness for herself and her loved ones for the years to come. "Chen, what wish did you make?" she asked, opening her eyes. "My wish is that your wish comes true," he replied simply, a soft smile playing on his lips. Jiang Ruorine lowered her eyes, a faint smile curving her own lips. His gaze rested on her face, warm and tender as the moonlight itself. Time passed quietly, and before they knew it, Jiang Ruorine's birthday arrived. On the day of her birthday, Jiang Ruorine was as busy as ever, helping to tend to the wounded soldiers in the camp. As night fell, she still hadn't seen any sign of Shinshingchen, and a faint sense of panic began to stir in her heart. She sent for one of her generals, asking anxiously, "Have you seen Shinshingchen anywhere, General?" "I thought he was with you all day," the general replied, looking confused. A wave of unease washed over Jiang Ruorine at once, but the camp's defenses were always tight. There was no way enemy soldiers could have sneaked in. How could a grown man just disappear without a trace? "General, it's an emergency. Someone has been seriously injured on the back mountain." A soldier suddenly rushed in, shouting, "What did you say? Take me there at once," Jiang Ruorine ordered. Her heart skipping a beat with fear, a group of soldiers led Jiang Ruorine to a secluded hillside outside the camp. All the way there, she prayed silently in her heart, "Shinshingchen, please be okay. Please don't let anything have happened to you." "General, the injured person is just up ahead," the soldier called out, pointing to the top of the hill. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorine immediately broke into a run only to stop short at the sight that greeted her. The hillside was covered with flower petals and lit candles. "Ruorine, why are you sweating so much on such a cold night?" a familiar voice asked, full of amusement. Jiang Ruorine was so startled that she stumbled, crashing straight into the man standing before her. "Chen, it's you, so it wasn't you who was injured. You have no idea how scared I was," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with relief as she clung to him. Shen Xingchen's eyes were filled with laughter as he wrapped his arms around her. "I never thought you'd be so worried about me, Ruorine. So, where is the injured person you mentioned?" Jiang Ruorine asked, pulling back slightly to look at him, still breathless from her run. Shen Xingchen looked a little guilty as he saw her still fretting over the supposed injured person. "Ruorine, there is no injured person." Jiang Ruorine finally realized what was going on. He had tricked her into coming here to celebrate her birthday. "Chen, next time you want to surprise me, pick a less scary excuse," she said, rolling her eyes playfully as she bent down to pick up one of the candles from the ground. In the flickering candlelight, she could see his handsome, sharply defined face clearly. She thought to herself, how can anyone be this good-looking? Just then, fireworks suddenly exploded in the night sky above them. Bursts of colorful fireworks lit up the sky like a beautiful dream, stunning Jiang Ruorine so much that her eyes widened in surprise. The candle in her hand nearly slipping from her grasp, she turned to look at Shen Xingchen, her eyes filled with surprise and emotion. Shen Xingchen smiled, gently taking her hand in his. "Happy birthday, Ruorine. These past few days, you've been so busy with the war and taking care of the soldiers that you completely forgot your own birthday. I wanted to give you a night you'd never forget." Tears pricked at the corners of Jiang Ruorine's eyes as she looked at the man before her, who had gone to so much trouble just to make her happy. A warmth she had never felt before flooded her heart. "Chen, thank you. This is the best birthday I've ever had," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The two stood quietly beneath the fireworks, savoring this rare, tender moment together. After a long while, Jiang Ruorine finally snapped out of her daze. Looking around her, she noticed that tables and chairs had been set up on the hillside, laden with simple yet exquisite dishes and a small, delicate cake. Shen Xingchen carefully picked up a piece of the cake, holding it up to her lips. "Try it, I specially learned how to make it for you. It's delicious," Jiang Ruorine said, taking a bite, her eyes lighting up with delight, watching her eat eagerly. Like a hungry little squirrel, Shen Xingchen shook his head helplessly, yet his eyes were filled with nothing but affection as he gently brushed a strand of hair off her forehead. "You really mustn't skip your meals again," he chided softly. Jiang Ruorine pouted playfully, looking up at him with big, innocent eyes. "It's all your fault. I was so busy looking for you all day that I didn't have any appetite for dinner." Upon hearing this, Shen Xingchen pulled her into a tight hug. "I'm sorry, Ruorine. I promise I'll never scare you like that again." "Jiang Ruorine, I've finally found you." A sudden voice shattered the beautiful moment between them. Li Chengjin stood at the bottom of the hillside, covered in dust and dirt from his long journey, his face etched with exhaustion, but his eyes burned with a desperate, unyielding determination. When he saw the sight of Jiang Ruorine and Shen Xingchen embracing each other, his heart clenched painfully, as if struck by a heavy blow. Once, she had only had eyes for him. Now, she was in another man's arms. The realization was almost too much for him to bear, a jumble of emotions surging within him. Jiang Ruorine heard the voice and turned around in astonishment. When she saw that it was Li Chengjin standing there, she instinctively glanced at Shen Xingchen beside her, afraid that he might be upset by this unexpected intrusion. This tiny, unconscious gesture did not escape Li Chengjin's notice. A sharp pang of jealousy and bitterness shot through his heart, as if 1,000 needles were piercing it at once. "What are you doing here?" she asked coldly, her voice devoid of any warmth. Once, she had lain awake countless nights, longing for him to look at her, to see her, but now that he was finally here, she found that her heart was completely calm, no longer stirred by his presence in the slightest. Li Chengjin took a step forward, climbing the hillside with difficulty. He stood before Jiang Ruorine, his lips trembling as he tried to speak. Yet no words came out. Looking into her cold, unfamiliar eyes, His mind was flooded with memories of their past together, all the moments he had taken for granted, all the times he had ignored her. Now, they washed over him like a tidal wave, filling him with overwhelming regret. Ruorine, I'm here to apologize to you, he finally managed to say, his voice hoarse with emotion. I'm afraid I don't understand what wrongs your Royal Highness could have committed that would warrant traveling all this way to apologize. Jiang Ruorine replied icily, her expression unchanged. Li Chengjin swallowed hard, his voice filled with deep remorse. I was wrong. I was a fool to believe Lin Qiniao's lies. To betray your sincere feelings for me. Tears glistened in his eyes as he spoke. I finally realize now, all these years, the one who truly loved me was you, and I pushed you away with my own hands. Jiang Ruorine listened quietly, her face showing no sign of emotion. His words did not stir the slightest ripple in her heart. The past is in the past, she said calmly, her tone filled with complete acceptance. I have my own life now, people I want to protect. Shun Xingchen had been by her side during her darkest hours, fighting alongside her on the battlefield, facing life and death together. The bond between them had been forged in blood and fire, unbreakable as a rock. The people you want to protect, you mean him? Li Chengjin asked, his eyes fixed on Shun Xingchen, who stood silently beside her. Shun Xingchen instinctively stepped forward, placing himself protectively between Jiang Ruorine and Li Chengjin. Watching the obvious affection between them, a sharp pain stabbed at Li Chengjin's heart. He refused to give up, refused to accept this reality. Ruorine, I know I hurt you deeply. But I am truly sorry. I swear I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Please, give me one more chance, he begged, his voice cracking with desperation. For the first time, he set aside his pride as the crown prince, willing to do anything to win her back. Jiang Ruorine frowned slightly. She hadn't expected him to be so persistent. Li Chengjin, I have let go of the past. There can be nothing more between us, she said firmly. No, Ruorine, if you come back to the capital with me, you will be my crown princess. Lin Qiniao is dead. I will send a grand procession to marry you. I swear it. I will take no other wives. You will be the only one in my life for all eternity. Li Chengjin exclaimed, growing more and more agitated. He reached out, trying to take her hand, but Shun Xingchen blocked him, grabbing his wrist and pushing his hand away forcefully. Anger flashed in Shun Xingchen's eyes as he glared at Li Chengjin coldly. Your Royal Highness, I suggest you show some respect. Ruorine does not love you anymore. Why do you insist on clinging to this? You are nothing but an interloper, a stranger who appeared out of nowhere. What right do you have to take her heart from me? Li Chengjin demanded furiously, unable to accept the fact that Jiang Ruorine had fallen in love with someone else. In his mind, she would always be the little girl who had followed him around, hanging on his every word. Her transformation now left him feeling lost, confused, and utterly helpless. HN treats me with genuine sincerity. He stood by me and supported me during my darkest hours, Jiang Ruorine said firmly. You never once did any of that for me. Her words were like a sharp blade, piercing straight through Li Chengjin's heart. He thought back to all the days he had spent with Lin Qiniao, the coldness and indifference he had shown to Jiang Ruorine, and his heart was filled with overwhelming regret. If only time could be turned back, he would cherish Jiang Ruorine more than anything. But it was already too late. Ruorine, but do you truly believe his intentions are pure? He is the son of the prince of the northern borderlands. He only approached you for your power and influence. Only if you return victorious and persuade Father Emperor to reopen the investigation into the past, can his father's name be cleared and he can inherit his title. Li Chengjin shouted frantically, grasping at straws. Shun Xingchen lowered his eyes to look at Jiang Ruorine, his voice steady and sincere. Ruorine, once my father's wrongful conviction is overturned, I am willing to abandon my name and title, and follow you anywhere, to wander the mountains and rivers for the rest of our days. Jiang Ruorine smiled softly, then turned her gaze back to Li Chengjin. Your Highness, no matter what HN's original intentions might have been, I do not care. I choose to stay by his side, she declared without hesitation. Li Chengjin's eyes reddened at the corners, his voice cracking with pain. So we can never go back. Li Chengjin, Jiang Ruorin said gently, yet with unshakable resolve, I hope you can find happiness that belongs to you. With that, Jiang Ruorin took Shen Xingqian's hand and turned to leave. Li Chengjin stared at their retreating figures, tears finally spilling from his eyes. He stood rooted to the spot, motionless, as the cold wind whipped around him, freezing the tears on his cheeks. That night, Li Chengjin tried to enter Jiang Ruorin's tent to see her, but he was stopped at the entrance by the guards. He stood rigid outside the tent, letting the icy raindrops beat down on his body relentlessly. His heart felt as if it were being stabbed by countless tiny needles. The pain so intense it was almost numbing. The rain poured harder and harder, each drop hitting the ground and splashing into tiny sprays, mirroring the chaos and turmoil in Li Chengjin's heart. His body trembled slightly in the wind and rain, yet he did not feel the cold at all. His mind was consumed with thoughts of how to win Jiang Ruorin back. He knew full well that her current coldness toward him was entirely of his own making. But how could he just give up? Once, she had loved him so fiercely, so wholeheartedly. He did not know how long he stood there before his legs gave out, and he collapsed weakly to the ground. His eyes stared blankly at the top of the tent, rainwater dripping continuously from his hair and pooling into a small puddle at his feet. Inside the tent, meanwhile, Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingqian sat side by side beside a crackling bonfire. Jiang Ruorin polished her sword gently with a cloth. It had been with her for years, through countless battles, and its blade still glinted with a cold, sharp light. Shen Xingqian, beside her, inspected each arrow carefully, ensuring they were all sharp enough to pierce through armor and strike true on the battlefield. Though both were focused on their tasks, when their eyes met occasionally, soft tenderness and concern shone in their gazes. Ruorin, when Li Chengjin came today, you. Shen Xingqian broke the silence, a hint of worry in his voice. Jiang Ruorin paused her movements, lifting her head to look at him with a calm, steady gaze. Chen. You have no need to worry. The past is truly behind me now. My heart belongs only to you, she said sincerely. Shen Xingqian nodded slightly, a warm smile tugging at the corners of his lips. I trust you completely. Of course, I only fear he will continue to pester you, and that he might try to harm you, he replied. Do not worry. First thing tomorrow morning, I will send men to escort him back to the palace, Jiang Ruorin assured him. The two exchanged a smile, then turned back to their work. The quiet crackle of the bonfire filling the tent. Li Chengjin had stood in the pouring rain all night. By dawn, his head was spinning, and his body swayed unsteadily, on the verge of collapse. He was just about to stagger to another tent to rest when a deafening commotion suddenly erupted around him. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The shrill cries cut through the air like a knife. Immediately following were the thunderous sound of galloping hooves, the earth-shaking roar of battle cries, and the sharp clash of weapons against weapons. The world seemed to plunge into chaos and flames in the blink of an eye. Enemy soldiers surged forward like a raging tide, charging straight for the camp. Li Chengjin pushed through the guards and rushed into Jiang Ruorin's tent only to find it empty. He stumbled through the chaotic crowd, his eyes searching frantically for Jiang Ruorin's figure. At that moment, there was only one thought in his mind: he had to find her, and protect her at all costs. Finally, through a blur of flashing swords and spears, he saw her. Her figure was as valiant and heroic as ever, her spear swirling through the air with unstoppable force. The enemy soldiers were being driven back, forced to retreat in disarray before her. But in that split second, a cold arrow shot out from the darkness like a ghost, streaking toward Jiang Ruorin's back with lethal precision. Li Chengjin's pupils constricted sharply, his heart seeming to stop beating. He had no time to think. His body reacted instinctively, darting forward like an arrow released from its bow. A dull thud echoed through the air. The sharp arrowhead sank deep into Li Chengjin's back, piercing straight through his chest. Blood gushed forth like a fountain, instantly soaking his robes. Spreading rapidly in the cold rainwater, Li Chengjin's body swayed violently, his legs buckling beneath him as he slowly crumpled to the ground. Jiang Ruorin heard the strange sound behind her and froze, spinning around in alarm. When she saw Li Chengjin lying in a pool of blood, Her mind went blank with shock, the spear nearly slipping from her grasp. She swung her spear in a wide arc, dispatching several enemy soldiers who tried to approach, then rushed to Li Qingjin's side in a single bound, lifting him into her arms without hesitation. "Li Qingjin, how are you?" she cried out, her voice tight with anxiety as she stared down at his ashen face, his lips bloodless, his eyes closed. Li Qingjin seemed to hear her voice, his eyes fluttering open slowly, a faint glimmer of light in them. When he saw her anxious expression, a weak smile tugged at his lips. "Ruorine, I finally protected you. Just this once." Before he could finish speaking, his eyes slipped shut again, his body going limp in her arms, holding Li Qingjin tightly. Jiang Ruorine ran toward the camp as fast as she could, her voice ringing out urgently. "Physician, someone get the physician here." Inside the tent, the atmosphere was so heavy it was suffocating. The military physician's face was as grim as storm clouds gathering overhead. He carefully laid Li Qingjin flat on the bed, quickly cutting open the back of his robe to examine the wound. When he saw the deep, gaping wound that continued to seep blood relentlessly, his brows furrowed deeply into a sharp V. "General, His Royal Highness's injury is extremely severe. The arrow was poisoned. We must find the antidote immediately, otherwise." The physician's voice was low and grave, trailing off, but Jiang Ruorine understood the unspoken words all too well. "Do whatever it takes, you must save him," she ordered firmly. The physician nodded, immediately springing into action, preparing various medicinal herbs and tools to begin the urgent treatment. For the next few days and nights, Jiang Ruorine barely closed her eyes, staying by Li Qingjin's bedside, never leaving his side for a moment. The tent was filled with the pungent smell of medicinal herbs, the medicine pot on the fire bubbling continuously. Jiang Ruorine personally brewed his medicine and changed his dressings, her face etched with exhaustion. Shen Xingchen watched her, her figure haggard with worry, and could only stand silently by her side, offering his quiet support. As night fell, Jiang Ruorine finally drifted off to sleep, her head resting on the edge of Li Qingjin's bed. Shen Xingchen tiptoed over to her, gently covering her with a blanket. "Chen, Chen," she murmured in her sleep. "I'm here," he replied softly, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. His eyes filled with nothing but love and tenderness. The next morning, Li Qingjin regained consciousness, his mind still groggy and confused. Jiang Ruorine felt a wave of relief wash over her, the tension in her shoulders finally easing. "Your Highness, are you feeling any discomfort?" she asked calmly. Li Qingjin's eyes dimmed slightly at her formal tone. "Must you be so distant with me?" "Ruorine, there was never really any relationship between us to begin with, so how can there be distance?" she replied quietly. Her gaze lowered. "Rest a while longer. I will go brew your medicine." A few days later, Li Qingjin's condition had stabilized significantly. Jiang Ruorine immediately threw herself back into her military duties. Like a clock wound tight to its limit, she and Shen Xingchen spent their days and nights in intense discussion, poring over military maps covered with dense markings by the flickering candlelight. When the battle orders were issued, the army surged forward like a tiger unleashed from its cage, their morale soaring to unprecedented heights. In the end, they routed the enemy forces completely, forcing them into a total retreat. After countless bloody battles, the dawn of victory finally broke through the thick smoke of war. They succeeded in driving the enemy completely out of their borders, reclaiming the 12 frontier cities triumphantly. On the city walls, the military banners fluttered violently in the wind, snapping loudly against the sky. The soldiers, weary from the long, hard battles, crowded around, cheering and shouting with joy, their voices ringing out across the land. Jiang Ruorine looked out at the hard-won peace unfolding before her, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. Once, the people of the frontier had suffered terribly under the ravages of war. Now, at long last, they could return to peaceful lives, no longer living in fear. The joyous news of victory was carried back to the capital by messengers riding at breakneck speed, faster than the wind itself. When the emperor heard the news, he was overjoyed, unable to contain his delight. He immediately picked up his brush and wrote an imperial edict, urgently summoning Jiang Ruorin back to the capital to report on her success. Upon returning to the capital, Jiang Ruorin did not stop to rest. Despite being exhausted from the long journey, she went straight to the palace to seek an audience with the emperor. In the imperial court, she stood tall and straight as a pine tree. Her bearing calm and dignified. "Your Majesty, your servant has returned," she announced in a clear, steady voice. "General Jiang truly lived up to my trust and did not disappoint my expectations. To have a great general such as yourself is not only my good fortune, but the great fortune of our entire dynasty," the emperor said with a broad smile, his eyes filled with praise. "Name any reward you desire, I shall spare no expense to grant it to you." Jiang Ruorin's expression turned solemn as she clasped her hands together in a military salute, her voice ringing out clearly through the court hall. "Your Majesty, your servant desires no rewards. There is only one thing I beg of you, please grant me this request." The emperor leaned forward eagerly, his curiosity piqued. "What is it? Speak freely." 10 years ago, the prince of the northern borderlands was wrongfully accused of treason and executed. However, while stationed at the frontier, your servant had the great fortune to meet his son, Xinxiang. He possesses extraordinary martial arts skills, fought with unparalleled bravery on the battlefield, and has shown the utmost loyalty to our imperial court. It is simply impossible to believe that his family could have committed the crime of treason. Your servant humbly begs your Majesty to reopen the investigation into the Prince of the Northern Borderlands case, to clear his family's name and restore them to justice. Her words were like a boulder dropped into a perfectly still lake. In an instant, the entire court hall erupted into an uproar. The ministers began whispering and murmuring among themselves, the noise swelling until the hall was filled with a chaotic buzz of voices. Just then, an elderly minister stepped forward, clasping his hands in a formal salute. "Your Majesty, the case of the Prince of the Northern Borderlands was decided by the late Emperor himself. With conclusive evidence presented at the time, to hastily reopen the investigation now would surely shake the very foundations of our state. I implore your Majesty to think carefully." The old minister's tone was earnest, his brows furrowed deeply with obvious concern. Upon hearing this, Jiang Ruorin's delicate eyebrows knitted slightly. She responded neither humbly nor arrogantly, her voice steady and firm. "Your Excellency, there may well have been hidden secrets behind what happened all those years ago. Today, Xinxiang has dedicated himself to clearing his family's name, and he fought valiantly by our side in this campaign to reclaim our lost territories, rendering distinguished service to the crown. If we can uncover the truth and restore justice to the Prince of the Northern Borderlands and his family, it will not only demonstrate your Majesty's impartiality and benevolence to the world but also unite the hearts of the people. How can this possibly be said to shake the foundations of the state?" Her gaze was resolute, her tone carrying a faint edge of coolness. "General Jiang, this is a matter of the utmost gravity. Allow me time to deliberate," the emperor said, his expression turning solemn as he fell into deep thought. Seeing this, Jiang Ruorin knelt down once more, her voice sincere and urgent. "Your Majesty, the Prince of the Northern Borderlands rendered illustrious military service in his day. He defended our frontier against foreign invaders, braved countless dangers and fought countless battles for our dynasty, performing extraordinary feats of loyalty and courage." The emperor remained silent, his eyes thoughtful. A flicker of anxiety stirred in Jiang Ruorin's heart, but she pressed on, refusing to yield. "Now his family languishes under a wrongful conviction. If we fail to clear their names and restore their honor, who in the days to come will be willing to serve the imperial court with unwavering loyalty, to lay down their lives without hesitation? I earnestly beg your Majesty to make a swift decision." Her words were heartfelt and sincere. She bowed her head deeply to the ground, remaining prostrate and unmoving. The emperor lifted his gaze. Sweeping it slowly over the assembled ministers in the hall, he asked in a deep voice, "My lords, what are your views on this matter?" "Your Majesty, General Jiang speaks with great reason. I have heard tell of Xinxiang's deeds at the frontier. He is truly a man of exceptional talent and courage. If we can uncover the truth and clear the Prince of the Northern Borderlands of all false charges, It will show the entire world the wisdom and sagacity of your Majesty's rule." One minister spoke up in agreement. Quickly, several other ministers chimed in, voicing their support for reopening the investigation. A chorus of approval soon filled the imperial court. The emperor pondered for a long while, then finally nodded his head decisively. "Very well. I grant General Jiang's request. I hereby order the Minister of Justice to take charge of this case immediately, to conduct a thorough reinvestigation into the matter of the Prince of the Northern Borderlands. He must uncover the full truth and deliver justice that will satisfy the entire nation." In the days that followed, Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen traveled far and wide, assisting the Minister of Justice in gathering evidence to support the case. By chance, Jiang Ruorin learned from an old servant that a former advisor to the Prince of the Northern Borderlands might hold the key to the truth behind the original conviction. They spared no effort, going to great lengths to track down the elderly advisor, who had long since retired to a life of seclusion deep in the mountains. Shen Xingchen's eyes blazed with eagerness as he stepped forward, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "Venerable sir, you must know something about what happened to the Prince of the Northern Borderlands all those years ago. I beg you to tell us the truth, so that my family's unjust name may finally be cleared." The old advisor let out a long, heavy sigh, then spoke slowly, his voice thick with the weight of years. "In those days, the Prince of the Northern Borderlands was framed by a treacherous villain. That villain bribed a trusted confidant in the prince's household, who forged letters of treason and presented them to the late emperor. To prove his loyalty, the prince intended to journey to the capital to plead his case in person, but the villain secretly blocked his path. In the end, he died a bitter, wronged man." Jiang Ruorin pressed further, her eyes shining with resolve. "Who was this treacherous villain? Do you have any evidence to prove this?" The old advisor pulled a yellowed, tattered letter from his bosom, holding it out to them. "This is a correspondence between that bribed confidant and the villain, which I chanced upon by accident. I have kept it hidden all these years, waiting for the day when it would finally serve a purpose." With this crucial piece of evidence in hand, the Minister of Justice moved quickly to uncover the full truth, confirming beyond any doubt that the Prince of the Northern Borderlands had indeed been the victim of a heinous frame-up. When the Emperor learned the truth, he was enraged. Flying into a thunderous fury, he severely punished all the officials who had been involved in the conspiracy, then issued a royal edict to the entire nation, formally exonerating the Prince of the Northern Borderlands and restoring his family's honor and reputation. Shen Xingchen was thus restored to his rightful status as a royal prince, yet when he stood in the imperial court, his expression remained calm and unruffled, showing no trace of excitement at the recovery of his title and privileges. He stepped forward to stand before the emperor, then knelt down, bowing his head deeply in respect. "Your Majesty, I am eternally grateful for your grace in clearing my family's name and restoring our honor. This great kindness I shall engrave deep in my heart. But I have wandered the land since childhood, and I have long grown weary of the endless strife and intrigue of the imperial court, as well as the empty glory and luxury of noble life. Now, my only wish is to stay by Jiang Ruorin's side, to travel the mountains and rivers together. I humbly beg your Majesty to grant me this desire." The emperor paused for a moment, considering his request, then nodded with a warm smile. "Very well. General Jiang has rendered unparalleled service to the state, and she has more than earned the right to rest and enjoy a life of peace." When Li Chengjin learned of their impending departure, he was seized by a desperate panic. He rushed to them without delay, his face pale with urgency. "Ruorin, are you really going to leave? You still refuse to be my crown princess?" After everything that has happened, Jiang Ruorin's expression remained calm and serene, her voice steady and unwavering. "I was never your crown princess in the past, and I never will be in the future. Between us, there will only ever be the distance of strangers." Li Chengjin stared after their retreating figures, tears streaming down his face unchecked, his heart shattered into a million pieces. Back in the Eastern Palace, Li Chengjin shut himself away completely, spending his days staring blankly at the few meager possessions Jiang Ruorin had left behind. The eunuchs attending him grew increasingly worried, venturing to plead with him, "Your Highness, please do not continue to sink into such deep despair." But Li Chengjin paid no heed to their words. He merely clutched a jade pendant Jiang Ruorin had given him tightly in his hand, his eyes empty and hollow. "Ruorin, why are you so cruel? Could you not have given me just one more chance?" As the days turned into weeks, Li Chengjin's mental state deteriorated rapidly. He often dreamed of meeting Jiang Ruorin, of the happy times they had shared as children, but each time he woke up, confronted by the cold emptiness of his rooms, the pain in his heart became even more unbearable. One day, he suddenly snapped. He ran madly out of the Eastern Palace and threw himself into the palace lake. By the time his attendants managed to fish him out, his body was completely frozen stiff. It was more than half a month before he finally regained consciousness. When Li Chengjin woke up, his eyes were vacant and empty, his face as pale as a sheet of paper, as if his very soul had departed from his body. "Your Highness, please, you must eat something. You have not touched a bite in days. Your body cannot possibly endure this," his chief eunuch begged, his voice filled with helplessness and fear. But Li Chengjin ignored him completely. He just stared fixedly out the window, his lips trembling slightly, yet not a single sound escaped them. The eunuch sighed deeply in despair, wringing his hands helplessly as he could only stand by and watch. A month later, Li Chengjin's mind completely snapped. He spent his days talking to the orchids in the courtyard, muttering strange, unintelligible words that no one could understand. In time, the emperor's disappointment turned to utter despair. He had no choice but to strip Li Chengjin of his title as crown prince and select a new heir to the throne. Meanwhile, after leaving the capital, Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen embarked on their journey to travel the land, to see the mountains and rivers of their country. Along the way, they were accompanied by the beauty of green mountains and clear waters, chatting and laughing happily with each other every step of the way. Jiang Ruorin gazed out at the breathtaking scenery before her, sighing with heartfelt contentment. "Chen, I never imagined that life away from the imperial court could be this free, this wonderful." Shen Xingchen turned to look at her, his eyes filled with warm affection as he smiled gently. "For all the days to come, I will stay by your side, to see all the most beautiful sights in the world together with you." A faint blush tinted Jiang Ruorin's cheeks. She nodded slightly, her heart filled with sweet happiness. Suddenly, Shen Xingchen pulled a small box from his sleeve and handed it to her. "Here, open it, and see if you like it." Jiang Ruorin took the box carefully, lifting the lid slowly. Inside, resting on a bed of soft silk brocade, lay a warm, lustrous jade pendant, exquisitely carved with delicate, flowing patterns. In the center of the pendant, a dazzling red gemstone was embedded, glowing with a brilliant, enchanting light in the sunlight, and along the edge of the jade, 2 names were carved clearly, their names each stroke filled with deep, tender affection. "Chen, it's beautiful. When did you prepare this?" she exclaimed in delight, her eyes shining with joy. Shen Xingchen scratched his head awkwardly, a shy smile spreading across his face. "When we were in the capital, I chanced to see this jade pendant in a shop. I knew at once that I had to buy it for you. To me, it is just like our love, one of a kind, unbreakable." Jiang Ruorin stroked the smooth surface of the jade pendant gently with her fingertips, then pressed it close to her chest, as if she could feel the steady, warm beat of Shen Xingchen's heart beneath it. "I love it, thank you, Chen," she whispered softly, her voice filled with deep emotion. The two of them continued their journey, and before they knew it, they arrived at a quiet, peaceful little town nestled by a river. The town was built right on the water's edge, with winding blue stone paths meandering through its streets, flanked by ancient, rustic houses from which thin wisps of cooking smoke curled lazily into the sky. The shops lining the streets were filled with a dazzling array of goods and wares. Jiang Ruorin was immediately drawn to a small shop selling handmade embroidery. The embroidery pieces in the shop were vibrant with color, stitched with incredibly delicate and intricate needlework. Each piece was so lifelike, it was almost as if it would leap right off the cloth. She paused for a long time in front of a handkerchief embroidered with a pair of mandarin ducks swimming together in a pond, her eyes filled with obvious fondness. Shen Xingchen watched her quietly, then slipped away to speak softly with the shopkeeper for a few moments. He paid for the handkerchief and bought it, tucking it away carefully in his sleeve. When Jiang Ruorin finally turned around, Shen Xingchen held the handkerchief out to her with a warm smile. "Here, take it, if you like it." Jiang Ruorin took the handkerchief from him, then playfully punched his arm lightly. "How much did this little handkerchief cost you? To see a smile on the face of the woman I love, I would willingly spend 1,000 pieces of gold without a second thought, let alone just a single handkerchief," he replied with a grin. That night, the moon hung high in the sky, casting a soft, silvery glow over the town like a delicate veil of mist. Jiang Ruorin and Shen Xingchen strolled slowly along the riverbank together. The clear river water gurgled gently past, reflecting the moonlight and the twinkling lights from the houses lining the banks. A cool breeze blew softly, carrying with it a faint hint of moisture from the river. Jiang Ruorin snuggled closer to Shen Xingchen instinctively, seeking his warmth. "Chen, this town is so peaceful, so quiet, it feels like time itself has slowed down here," she murmured softly. Her voice drifting gently on the night breeze. Shen Xingchen slipped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer to his side. He pressed a soft kiss to the top of her head, his voice filled with profound contentment. "I am so happy, Ruorin, so very happy." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window. Falling warmly on the bed, Jiang Ruorin woke up slowly, stretching lazily only to find that Shen Xingchen was already up and about. She got up and walked out of the room, to find Shen Xingchen standing in the inn's courtyard, chatting amiably with an elderly local villager. "Venerable sir, are there any special places worth visiting near here?" Shen Xingchen asked politely. The old man stroked his beard thoughtfully, then smiled and nodded. "As a matter of fact, there is, deep in the mountains, there is a hot spring. The water there is truly magical. It can heal all manner of aches and pains, and even prolong life." Jiang Ruorin's heart skipped a beat. She thought of how Shen Xingchen had fought so hard in the war, how his body must surely be riddled with old wounds and hidden aches from all his years of hardship. To be able to soak in the hot spring and let it heal his body would be the perfect gift for him. She turned to look at Shen Xingchen, her eyes shining with eager anticipation. "Chen, let's go see it, please." "Of course," he replied with a warm smile, squeezing her hand gently. "Whatever you want, I will always do it with you." As they walked carefully along the mountain path, stepping nimbly over the rocks beneath their feet, Jiang Ruorin turned to ask him, "Chen, do you think this hot spring is really as magical as the old man says it is?" Shen Xingchen laughed softly, his eyes crinkling with amusement. "I am sure it is. We will soon find out." After several hours of arduous hiking, they finally reached the hot spring. The area around the spring was shrouded in a thin, misty veil of steam. Swirling gently in the air like something out of a fairy tale, Jiang Ruorin hurried excitedly to the edge of the spring. Dipping her hand into the water, it was the perfect temperature, warm and comforting. She turned to look at Shen Xingchen, her face lit up with joy. "Chen, come quickly, try it." Shen Xingchen walked over to her side, and together they stepped into the warm embrace of the spring water. The hot, soothing water wrapped around their bodies, melting away all the tiredness and aches from their long journey in an instant. Jiang Ruorin leaned back against the smooth stone edge of the spring, closing her eyes and letting out a soft sigh of pure contentment, savoring this rare moment of perfect peace and relaxation. "Chen, it would be wonderful if we could stay here forever," she murmured dreamily. Shen Xingchen gazed at her, his eyes filled with tender affection and adoration. "If that is what you wish, we can stay here for as long as you like." After spending a few more delightful days in the quiet little town, the two of them packed their bags once more and embarked on a new journey, ready to explore more of the beautiful world that lay ahead of them.